Hello everyone, welcome to today's stream. I'm Stuart, with me as always is James. Hello James, how are you?
I'm all right, mate.
Good, good. And today we have got our very special guest. We've got Jon Wedger. He is a retired police detective with over 25 years service in the investigation into child abuse. He was threatened and bullied out of his job for exposing high-level corruption. So, without further ado, please welcome to the stream Jon Wedger and his very special guest, Isabella.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, Jon.
Hello.
Hello, Jon. Hello, Isabella. How are you?
Thank you for having us on.
No, it's
Really
our
well,
pleasure.
thanks.
Absolutely our
really
pleasure.
good. And it's a pleasure to guest on your show, and thank you.
Thank you, Jon.
So, Jon, could you introduce Isabella as well? Because obviously, she's your guest.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I'm here in London, and I'm with Isabella. And how the two of us have been brought together on this is that my work since I left the police. I left the police service. I retired in 2017, but after nearly a 4-year battle, because early on, 4 years previous, that I'd exposed high-level cover-up of a deliberate cover-up, really, of child sexual exploitation, child prostitution, whatever you want to term it. It was massive and absolutely huge. It was endemic. I was on an investigation. One kid led to another kid, led to another kid. Children from the care homes, aged between 9 to 14 years old, which they were just being, relentlessly pimped out to all sorts, and it was a massive underbelly that was going on in London, right in the heart of London. And I spoke out for the kids. I spoke out for what was going on, and instead of being helped, rewarded, or encouraged to go forward, the opposite happened. I was threatened. I was threatened with the loss of my home, my children, and my job if I was to speak out by someone very high up. I made allegations of corruption, because it was corruption. Because let's not get this wrong. These children were living such an appalling life that they were being exposed to life-threatening diseases. Some of them, were harbouring horrifically untreated venereal diseases, life-threatening venereal diseases, and also they were supporting crack and heroin addictions. These were young little kids, and it was absolutely appalling. So I got threatened with the loss of my home and children, my job, if I didn't shut my mouth. Wow. Unfortunately for them, I couldn't rest. I couldn't settle until I spoke out. So I made allegation of corruption. That led to me then publicly speaking out. And instead of the Metropolitan Police investigating these allegations of corruption, they put all their efforts into putting me through a 4-year campaign of hell, really, in which they nearly took my home from me because I wasn't paid for nearly 3 years. They put together 9 cases to the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, to have me imprisoned. They ranged from offences that could have got me 2 years to offences that could have got me 15 years in prison. And they was absolutely relentless in their pursuit of me. I refused to back down, and where it accumulated, that I will get onto Isabel. I'm just giving people who don't know me where it got. Really, the straw that broke the camel's back for me was one of my children. I was a single parent of 4 children, and part of my campaign is I speak out against single parenting and how destructive it is. And I'm qualified to say that because, I spent 2 decades bringing up 4 kids on my own, and one was an infant at the time, and working full time, and how it really does open the family up for these vultures, But it's a bigger social problem anyway. But one of my boys was caught up in a life-threatening and life-changing accident. He was in a coma for a long, long time, and they were going to turn the life support machine off. And I stood by his side for 3 days in a vigil. I had 5 days with him before the machine was turned off. And on the 3rd day, after a real traumatic time, but in which I really, really engrossed myself in prayer, and I speak out against miracles. I speak out for miracles because they do happen, He woke up, but when I went home, because I was there for 3 days, the Metropolitan Police had sent a local police force around to arrest me for child neglect, child abandonment, because I left my 15-year-old son at home, but he was with my 26-year-old son. So there was no end to it, but that was really the final point. This is when, as a whistleblower, I'd had enough, and I say to anyone, you know, who is brave enough, stand up and speak out. Now, whistleblowers, chaps, I've got to tell you this, they're very, very similar to victims and survivors of abuse. And when you do stand up, you stand up alone. No one stands with you. You look around for your friends, they're all gone. You know, forget it. When you stand up, you stand alone. You know,
you can say that, John.
Evil will stamp on you. Evil will stamp on you when you're down.
One thing that this past year has shown us, to what you're saying there, you know, with everything that's been going on, and you're seeing everyone sort of taking a knee and whatever, and wearing masks. I'm not getting onto the politics of that. What I'm saying is, the people that you looked up to and thought I could rely on if the shit ever hit the fan, basically, you can't. It's proved you can't rely on them. So it just goes to back up basically what you're saying there. You know, I can't believe how people are.
It's appalling. I mean, these situations must have occurred many times during the world wars, where people really relied on what they thought was a leader, only to find out that they had no spine whatsoever. Yeah, you know. And exactly. I saw the police for what they are. You know, I never attack the police. I attack, cowardice and corruption. You know, and I do, and there's a lot of it. But you'll get that with any institution. Whenever you've got power, you're always going to get an abuse of power. Always. I had power and I abused it. You know. But, you know, what happened when eventually, you know, I did manage to sort of clear my name. Every single case was dropped by the Crown prosecution. If they had anything on me, at least one would have stuck, because I know how the game works, you know, with investigating. Not one stuck. And they paid me out and off I went. But I used my skills, because I was a specialist interviewer on child abuse, to go out and to give the voice to the voiceless. Yeah. And you know, that was my campaign. It was what I call a witness campaign. I'll give them a chance to be witnessed. So I went out with my mobile phone, like I've got here, and I started speaking with victims and survivors. You know, give me your life story. Tell me what happened. You know, and these are people that have been let down by the police. If it ever got to an investigation, if it did, it usually got dropped. You know, but also what child abuse does to the individual. You know, it's a scar that they'll die with. They don't get over it, you know, and it affects everything, every sinew of their body, but it affects them, you know, in their thinking, in their cognitive ability, but also it affects them spiritually. And, you know, mind, body and soul, there is a spiritual element to our existence. And anyone that doesn't believe that thinks it's a two-dimensional existence, well, I can't reach out to you. What can I do for you, you know? I'm not here to convert anyone. Lord Jesus is my saviour because he helped me. And he wants me doing what I'm doing. But again, I'm not here to punch religion down anyone's throat. Believe what you want. But what I'm going to say is we're going to go into the realms of Satanism very shortly. And before we do that, Isabella's going to lead us into a short prayer of protection. Because if you don't believe in God, that's not my concern. But let me tell you something. The devil believes in you and he's coming for you. Right? And he's coming for our children. And any sexual act against a child or an act of cruelty against a child is an act of evil, and it is perpetuated with pure evil intent by selfish means. You know, I thought that what I would do, you know, maybe a few people would take an interest. You know, in my first year, I've become one of the fastest growing podcasters on Facebook. YouTube last year, I got just shy of 2 million hits. I was getting more Facebook hits per month than the Daily Mirror. The height of what I was doing. But with that, you know, comes an attack. And it was a massive attack. So you've got to be prepared for it, because you're opening up this dark world to the light. And when you go in the sewer and you shine a torch, these rats bite, and they do bite.
Yeah, you know, but like you said though, John, you've got to stand up to them as well. And if
well, of course. Well, this is the thing, chaps, because someone said to me, "Oh, you're not frightened and scared." I still get attacked even now. It never goes away. But I said, look, listen, my fear is inconsequential. It is a drop in the ocean compared to how that little child feels when someone's walking in the dormitory at night and peeling that cover from over them.
Yep.
You know, and this is why I do it. This is why I do. And the thing is, this is what brings me here today with Isabella, and we're embarking on a campaign of trying to expose something that has never really been exposed, right? Was that people started coming to me and they've been abused, but they've been abused in a satanic ritual environment. And that was so sinister and so dark. You know, this is something hopefully we'll be able to expand on. Yeah. But it's abuse that has got deity worship. These are people that spend an inordinate amount of their time worshipping these gods. And these gods are ancient gods.
Yeah.
You know, these are pre-Christian gods, Babylonian gods, right? And then, of course, you had a lot of people of high position and high office in this country that were alleged to be involved in it. Jimmy Savile, for one, Ted Heath, the former Prime Minister, for one. And then a thing called the RAINS list came out. It's an acronym, RAINS, Ritual Abuse Information Network Support, in which are very prominent and very, very respected. Yeah, it's Dr. Joan Coleman.
When did that come out?
Maudsley Hospital.
Sorry, when did that come out? Because I've never heard of that report.
It came out, I think, 1998.
Oh, okay.
I would implore anyone, Google it, RAINS list, satanic list, put that in, it will come up. And the provenance of this document was that this lady set up a therapy office. I don't know. It was in the Maudsley Hospital. She's getting a lot of people with mental health problems. And again, we can draw parallels between the prison population, the mental health, the suicides and child abuse. Yeah. Such strong connections that it's irrefutable, yet they refuse to acknowledge it. You know, it's so, they see it as a tenuous, almost negligible link. It really probably is the single most fundamental, detrimental thing to our society is the abuse of children, the sexual abuse of children.
Yeah,
right? So people would go presenting themselves to this lady, Joan Coleman, and she was starting therapy lessons. And one of the things she started noticing was a thing called DID. It's called Dissociated Identity Disorder. Previously, it was known as multiple personalities, right? What calls multiple personalities? And it's a fragmentation of the mind, right? But also it's alter personalities. And sometimes these things could even be attributed to demonic possession. Now, what she found was that people that did have this were almost unanimously had come from satanic ritual abuse environments. And she kept getting more and more people coming to her. So she started
I've lost your sound, John.
Right, okay, 1 minute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah. Sorry, I thought it was my end then. I thought I'd gone deaf.
Debt collecting agency ringing me, you know, so
okay.
Good luck with that one, chaps.
Sorry, mate, I thought I'd gone deaf on there. I was like...
You know, so what happened with the DID? People were saying things, because you're talking about a very, very well-organised setup with satanic abuse, incredibly well-organised, because the practices involve rape, they involve bestiality, they involve sodomization of children, and they involve child sacrifice and animal sacrifice. And we're going to go on, Isabella and myself, to tell us the reasons why this goes on. You know, so there were certain locations this would happen. So this woman, if two or more, so if three people mentioned a location, it went on the list. If a name got mentioned, it went on the list, right? But it had to be mentioned by two or more, so three people, you know. So this list got compiled. This list is 16 pages long. It even had the guy, he is named in there, right? Politicians, actors,
he's
the former head, the former cardinal of the Catholic Church, he is named on there. You know, again, I don't want to go down the libel route, but this document has never been discredited. Joan Coleman was never held accountable in a libel court or civil court. And I've read many documents and many sort of statements of truth, right? You can tell when someone's lying. You can, you know. This holds its own. It's got a strength to it. It's got a veracity to it. And so...
Has anyone ever tried to attack it?
Satanist group, it's never been removed, and it's never been discredited. It's never been subject to any legal, recourse.
Okay.
But what happened is a lot of people have tried to get satanic rituals recorded, but it's very, very difficult. And the victims and the survivors of this, there's a thing called mind control, right? MK Ultra came out, and what that is that's a torture. So they're tortured. These children are tortured. You're going to see things like drowning. Drowning is a big thing in satanic. So we're talking about the UK, satanic ritual abuse in the UK. Yeah. Isabella's going to go on the parallels between another version of satanic abuse.
Okay.
And, which has never really been fully sort of explained or exposed, so as far as I'm aware.
John, just to quickly ask you, when you said about one of the rituals is drowning, is that like similar to witchcraft back in back in the day when they used to burn witches and they'd drown them, and if they didn't drown they'd set them on fire and whatever? Is that like a parallel to that kind of thing? Is it where because they would try and exorcise the evil spirit or whatever it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's an interesting book. I can't remember the name of it, and it's all about the witch trials that went on. Matthew Hopkins was quite a well-known witch finder, but when you look at some of the trials, there is a degree of fairness in them. And when I started reading this, being someone who's worked in the legal profession for many years, I saw sometimes more fairness in the witch trials. This might sound really obtuse and obscure. People go, "What's he on about? Is he crazy?" But what you get when you see about the ducking swords, that these are sort of on the far scale of extreme. There were more localized ones, and it was all to do with tribal elders would get together, and it would be a big sort of a bit like the Red Indians would do when they all get together and they all make a collective decision.
Yeah.
But people were back then, at least they were recognizing that people were worshipping the devil, and they were sacrificing animals and children and doing sex rituals. Now they refuse to acknowledge it, right? Totally carte blanche. It doesn't happen.
But what is
it's that? Satanic panic. It's a myth.
What do you think has caused that?
A lot of these churches, a lot of the churches are built on old pagan sites. They found it in the Second World War when they were clearing up the bomb damage. They found pagan relics in the churches that have been bombed, especially around the East End, because it's so old and it's ancient, and that's why. But it's an attack on Judeo-Christianity as well, because the antithesis of a lot of Christian worship, they will use it as well. So it's a Good Friday when Jesus was crucified. It's a big day for them, as well as pagan days. And you see now pagan days have been morphed into the Christian religion. How it has hijacked Christianity because Jesus Christ wasn't born on the 25th of December. But whereas Saturnalia, the ancient sort of pagan ritual of the equinox was. So that's how they had to sort of try and squash it all together to make it,
Isn't that something to do with where they added an extra month to the calendar or something? Well, Julius Caesar or something, and it changed it because of that, didn't it?
And then, of course, and if you look at our days of the week, they're all worship of the planets.
Yeah.
Monday is the moon's day, and Thursday is Venus's day and all that. So if you look at the French days of the week, lundi, mardi, mercredi, jeudi, vendredi, Sunday, they are more planet related, than us, because we're not a Latin based language. Bits of it are, but some of it isn't. But these people were speaking to me, and they were all saying consistently the same thing. And there were certain rituals that will go on, and these are coming from all different corners of the UK, and all saying the same. And the trauma that a lot of these survivors had, you could see it, and the multiple personalities that occurred, and there was no help for it. But they never managed really to sort of capture a proper ritual, because it's such a closed shop. You can't have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. With this, when you're in that ritual, you will partake. But so I got massively attacked. By what I say, paedophiles and their protectors, but also by satanic groups. They're horrible. When you get their attacks, you feel it in here because they're so dirty. But how we end up here today, because gone a bit too long now, right? Is the fact that a guy contacted me, and he was heavily involved in criminality, but also in voodoo, in black witchcraft, African witchcraft, Santeria, and we'll explain where this all comes from. It's a West African belief system that migrated with the slave trade out to the Caribbean. And this guy was telling me how massively it's used within the criminal networks, and it just doesn't get exposed. From there, he then said, "You're going to have to meet someone that I'm working with at the moment," and this is how I got to meet Isabella. And he said Isabella was heavily demonized, was trafficked over here under a curse of voodoo, and that's it. So I'm going to pass over to Isabella. We have here lots of exhibits that we like to go through within the course, but Isabella, please. Good.
Hello, Isabella.
You guys don't mind closing your eyes, please?
We're just going to have a prayer of protection before we start, if we might.
Heavenly Father God, we thank you for this gathering this evening. We thank you, Lord God, and we ask that your angels will surround each and every one of us who are here right now, God. And in the mighty name of Jesus, we ask that let your protection, oh Father, Lord, be upon us. Let your Holy Ghost fire be upon us in the mighty name of Jesus. That, Father, Lord, this broadcast will go worldwide, oh God, that you will minister into the hearts of people, oh God, that those who have gone through sexual rituals, who have gone through all manners of trauma, Father, Lord, they shall be touched, Father, Lord, in the mighty name of Jesus. We thank you for what you're doing, oh God, and let your Holy Ghost Spirit, oh God, we call it upon to be right here, right now, oh God, that you will minister, oh God, and you will touch hearts in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for that. And there is a reason for that prayer, because we're going to go into some very dark places now. So
is that like a coat of armour? Is that like a, we've got a protective coat now?
Exactly.
And you need it. Me now.
Because listen, they will spend a long time sending out their curses, and their arrows of spirituality, boom, to take us down, because they don't want this being out there, being broadcast.
You're never alone when you got Jesus, eh? So
that's right. Be fine. That's right.
But Isabella's story starts in West Africa, in Nigeria, and so you
so I'm going to try and make it as brief as possible. I grew up in Nigeria, and my mother left me at the age of 2 years old to come to England. So I was being left with different people. I was going through starvation and cruelty. And what actually happened was I was being sent to somewhere in Abuja. I don't know if it's somewhere in the north, but they deal with a lot of rituals, and Saudi Arabia's they go around there. They're actually one of the most wealthiest tribes in England. In Nigeria. So May 1999, I was actually being sent to Abuja, and I was with an uncle who's now dead, God bless his soul. And I at that particular time, I came across, my mother has been trying to get me to England, but she wasn't being successful. So in May 1999, this was just before my birthday actually, I met this girl, right? This is where the story gets into how the ritual actually worked. I met this young girl. She was just 2 years older than myself. Very beautiful girl, right? And she said to me, have I ever had sex? So I said to her, no, I've never had sex. She goes, oh, you're so beautiful. Why don't you come over to see my auntie? So the next day, I went to the house, right? When I went to the house, I met the two aunties. There were beautiful women, very, very beautiful looking women. When you talk about, this is where it goes, it's called Mami Water, but this is where they talk about mermaids. So they sort of associated with the sea, which is the water. So I went with them, and I was in a dark room. They gave me something to drink. I was sitting on the table, and they were like, look, you've never had sex before, right? And I said, yeah. And then they said to me, do you want to always have money and have men giving you stuff, just men just being at your feet? And I went, yeah, but I'm scared at the same time. And She turned around, she put me on the bed, she laid a mattress on the floor, and then asked me to go and lay on the mattress in a dark room. I remember being so scared. And this dark-skinned man, right, African man comes in with European features, and then he comes on top. He goes to me, "Don't worry about it," trying to get me. You know, I was only about, I think I was 13 plus. This was just before my birthday. So he started stroking me, said, "Don't worry about it, nothing will happen." Then he finally had sex with me, and I was only 13 at that time, just 13 plus. And he had sex with me, and I was bleeding on the bed. And then they had, my blood was actually on a sheet, and they took my underwear that was bleeding. They took the whole sheets. The women turned on the light, took all the whole sheets. I was confused. So I went home. When I went home, I felt much different. I just felt different, but I didn't know what it was. And when I got to the house, 2 days later, right, I found out that I'd got my visa to come to England. And my mother came over to Abuja to get me. And she was actually with me for a while. She told me, "Look, you've got a siblings, and I'm actually pregnant, and she's been married to a different man." So I said, okay. I was very, very excited. And she left. I later on came to England by myself. And when I came in, I wasn't treated the treatment that I thought I would have been getting from my mother, not seeing her since when I was 2 years old, right? I came in May 1999. I think it was on the 12th or the 11th of May was when I actually came into this country. And when I came in, I met this guy, right? This Yoruba guy from Nigeria. He's from a Yoruba tribe who they love what they call juju. They love their voodoo. It's like they eat and sleep voodoo all the time. So at a time, I wasn't being treated well. I was being treated like a slave. And I remember my mother and my stepfather at the time who introduced me to this particular guy, right, who was living on the 3rd floor in Isleworth, because I was living in an estate. And this particular guy, he was, when my mother and my stepfather introduced me to this guy, he was very, in Nigeria, you don't know, you come into a different country, you don't know how it works here, and you're vulnerable. So I'm all smiley, you know, you're being taught to respect your elders, don't be rude, because that's how you're really brought up. And I was being very nice to the guy. He goes, and afterwards, when he saw me that week, he goes, "Come and see me later on, you know."
Have I gone deaf again?
Yeah, hello?
No, we're
Sorry.
we're here again.
Yeah.
Sorry. So we're back.
So
That's
the guy, he was a Jamaican guy, and he said to me, "Come over." And at this particular time, I wasn't getting on with my mother, and I wasn't getting on with my stepfather. Where it got really, really weird was when I came into the country, my stepfather, I went into the bathroom, and I came out. The water has spilt on the floor. And my stepfather came into my room without knocking. I'm not his child. And he hits me on my bum. And I remember saying to him, "Don't hit me on my bum like that." And then he did it again. So what I did was I called the police on him. So when I called the police, he was being arrested. When he got back, he actually went so crazy. And he said to me, he looked me in the eye and he said, "You know what? You are going to pay for this." And all of a sudden, right, I ran away from home and I was being put into all-girls school. And this is where the story gets interesting. I was being bullied at school, right, as an African girl. And one particular girl in person came up. She was like, "Leave her alone," pretending to be my friend. She changed the way that I dressed. The one who was living in the block, he ended up having sex with me for the first time, anally, right? So I went up to the flat, right, and I was crying. And he said, "No, don't worry, I'm going to be here for you." He was smoking weed. He asked me to try some. And I said, "No, thanks." And then he ended up drugging my drink to the point that I was so high off it, as a minor, you're high off it that you don't even know. The next thing I know, I'm having anal sex with him, and I'm talking a man with a massive penis. His penis is huge, and it's just at a time I didn't understand what was going on in the beginning, but afterwards I left. But what was so interesting was after this man had sex with me and ejaculated inside of me, right? I started spinning down there sexually. It's like I wanted to have sex more and more and more. And at that particular time, I was possessed as well. And this guy that I'm talking about, they deal with things called demigods. I don't know if you've ever heard of a demigod. Right. Yeah. Right. And he was actually a demigod, because meaning that his sperm was actually his sperm was actually alive, so it was alive in me. So I was becoming very, very sexual.
He was involved in the occult.
But he was also involved in the occult. In fact, in his house, right, it has occultic things in his house. But that particular time, I wasn't really aware because I'm a minor. So all of a sudden, I started going to his house. The next thing, he kept on drugging me more. And he started bringing guys into the house while I'm a minor to have sex with me. So I'm having sex with 4 guys, 3 guys all at once, right? But what was so interesting was that I wasn't crying. A lot of the times when I felt like a man was having sex with me or trying to take my body for granted, what I tend to do is I was able to channel in my head to sort of, you're not going to rape me, but rather I found pleasure in it, which was so bizarre. And at that particular time, I was actually very, very possessed. If you'd seen my face, I looked like a snake.
Explain to them how that comes about. Why was you possessed?
Right. Which I was one of the reasons why I was actually being possessed was because when I did what happened, there was a generational curse, which my mother and my auntie, right, their parents died very young, and they ended up they got into the occult themselves, the African occult, where it was to do with money, especially in the Africans, in the sort of African tribe. When they don't have no money, they're always so quick to go to either go to the goddess of the sea, or to go to the god of thunder, or go to one sort of god, entity, right, in order to sort of get power and money. And a lot of the times what tends to happen with the Africans is they'll tell you, the demons will actually turn around and tell you, you need to give something up. Sometimes it could be, okay, for example, in my case, it was me. My mother had to give me up because I was a special child. So they gave me up. And because they gave me up already, I was destined to be sacrificed. I was actually destined to physically die. Me dying, right, with what was inside of me, they would have taken the power, and they would have taken what was inside of me and used it for evil. So what actually happened was, when my mother and my auntie, who now lives in America, my mother lives here in England, when she had gone and done, and exchanged basically my destiny, she will be the one who's wealthy and she will be the one being liked. Right. What had happened, when I grew up as a child in Nigeria, I was actually, all the time I was being rejected. I was starved of love. I was not being fed. I was like one of those kids that had big head, and those kids that you see that don't eat. And I was being beaten. I was being sent to the sea, being treated basically like a slave as a little child.
Constantly ringing for some reason. It's really odd. But we'll go back to Isabella's going to just explain. It might not be too apparent because there's so much in it. Yeah. But in Nigeria was that a curse was put on her.
That's right.
To be used for sex. So, and the people that ended up, the Jamaican guy, was connected to the witch
criminal work and
in Nigeria. So she was brought over here deliberately to be put into the sex trade.
That's right.
And worked through there, and it was the voodoo that was the voodoo demons that were controlling it. Okay.
So
right. So like.
Sorry, Isabella, can I just ask?
when I did the ritual and everything, the vows that my mother had taken, with the mami water, which is the goddess,
The mami
What
water is also called Leviathan.
Yeah.
Oh,
is
okay.
sort of a sea goddess that is linked to Leviathan, which is actually in the scriptures. What a lot of people don't actually realize, in the sea there is actually a whole nation underneath the sea. It's not just on earth, but in the sea they actually have everything. There is like a whole
thing.
it's like a whole thing that people are not actually aware about. And what happened, when once I did that ritual, that's where everything went sort of wrong for me, because immediately they took my blood and did the sacrifice with the sea goddess, the Mami water spirit.
Oh,
And then
okay.
once that was being done, I put a certain entity inside of me, which was a sex demon. I had incubus. Paimon was on board. Everything was on board,
And explain what
basically.
these are.
Right. So Mami water, like I said, Mami water is a sea goddess, but Paimon, right, deals with it. It's a form with couples. For example, it could break up marriages. So I would keep a relationship, right? And also, what I did when they took my blood, it would stay with me. I had a spirit husband, so I was actually married to a sexual spirit. That if any man ever came near me, right, they could not say that spirit that was literally inside of me would literally attack that man. So, for example, if an occultic person came to have to sleep with me, someone who was practicing witchcraft, they would make money from me. Also, my mother was making money, right? And also my auntie was making money, and whoever, even as my step knew what was going on with me. So everyone was all in it to make money. But the point,
Explain how they made the money.
Right.
What was you doing? What were they putting you
So the
through?
point is, what was inside of me was always craving sperm. So everything that I got it through oral sex, it was through anal or whether it was through vaginal, but however I was getting sperm, the thing wanted sperm. So the more, because sperm is a form of DNA, is a form of like a blood. So
life, isn't
when once I've taken the sperm, what happens is I'm putting spiritually, I'm putting wealth into that, which means that doors will open. For example, if a man can't get a job, he's got a job. If an occultic man sleeps with me, let's say he wants to get a promotion, he will get a promotion. I slept with very important people here in England that I wasn't even aware. Right, when I did the ritual in Abuja, you know that I started making politicians, even though I was here, I was making the politicians in Abuja was actually making money. The government over there was actually making money because what they actually did, they took my blood to the pits of hell. They actually took my blood. It's like giving my blood to actually Satan himself. So I have now become a demon. Wherever I do go, right, whether
Yeah.
even in China, that demon, right, will know that I'm there and will send certain people around me to sleep with me. And the worst thing is when the men slept with me, they could not, they could be abusive. Any man that came to sort of show me any kind of love, he didn't like it. That's why they put the spirit husband there.
Right.
To chase any man that loved me. And that was all of the reasons why every time I slept, I was making them physical money. I was elevating people, right, on the spiritual level.
But also, it was organised, so you were going, there would be rooms of men, you'd
That's
be prostituted out,
That's right.
and pornographic films were made.
That's right. And in the process, even when I would go to parties, I'll be told I'm going to a party. I'll go into a party, there could be about 20 men there, right? And I'm having sex with all these men, and you know they're filming me. They're actually filming me without me even knowing. At times I'm gone. It's like what is inside of me has taken hold of me. It's no longer me having sex with you. I could have sex with 20, 30 men all at once, and I'm out of living.
And
I'm
all
actually
these...
out of the building. It's not me. It's the demon now actually have these guys and now telling them, you know, F me, more. And I'm even laughing. At times my face would change. My face would change, you know. People, my voice will get deeper at times when I'm having sex. It was really, I mean, I was really a vessel to be.
Yeah.
The key thing is when once the blood is, that's it.
But if we look back in there, they took virginity.
Yeah.
And so if we look parallels with the people that previously I dealt with that were involved in hand use, the children were very important. Sex with children was important, you know, and sex with the children would be used also. People would, a ritual would be done, a sex ritual would be done. Blood would always be used. I've heard of people get business deals because there has been a sacrifice made. Babies are higher value. Male babies are even higher.
And also virgin blood is one of the most important thing. If the blood is, what the demons actually like is they like pure, because they're dirty, so they like, you know. So the more if a child or a young person is not, but also is a virgin, they love it because that's like a pure blood that makes them go. It gives them power on a spiritual level. So yeah.
And if we look at the inception of this, you know, this came from Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, which was the epicenter of the slave trade.
So, John,
moved over when the slaves were taken over to the Caribbean, to Central and South America.
Haiti, Santeria.
Yeah, and we've got Guyana, and we've got derivatives. So, Jamaica, they've got a thing called opia, right, which is very, very practiced over there. If you get Haiti and you get Puerto Rico, a thing called Santeria, and these are all bastardizations. There are a matter of between voodoo, black witchcraft, juju, and Christianity, because they had to worship under Christianity, because otherwise it was allowed by their European traders, which is very ironic because there's a lot of devil. But again, we get churches used in this country. You get people that claim to be Christians. God, how many priests have abused kids? But what is interesting with Isabella's angle is that the UK, you know, we're ex-colonial masters. So we had a Commonwealth and we had an empire. So we have a massive population from our ex-Commonwealth and imperial countries. So we've got a lot of people from the Caribbean islands and we've got a lot of Nigerians here. And so there is a lot of voodoo, black witchcraft and juju and Santeria going on in the UK. And what we've got a few articles, and this is how the similarity between what I was previously looking at, which I still look at, the satanic ritual abuse, and what Isabella had in. The parallels are massive.
John,
really,
sorry, can I just
massive.
stop you for one second? Just 1 second. The sound is breaking up a little bit on here.
Okay.
It's just...
you're very quiet. Let me try and turn you up a bit. Hang on a second.
We can hear you. Levels are fine. It's just really crackly at times. That's all.
Sometimes it just went crackly. That's all. I mean,
is that better? I've just turned the volume up. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. It may be because we're in practice. But if I may, can you hear, are we okay? Good.
Yeah, you're good to
go. Right. So we're going to show you some articles which are readily purchased in a lot of shops, a lot of these crystal shops, Welby shops. You know, you'll find them anywhere, and they look very innocent. But they're not innocent, okay? But we've got a lot of candles here. But what I will start with, because I do this and...
Just one more thing. This was one of the candles that was actually for me. Because this candle, sorry, where is Sean? black one. No, it's this one here. Right.
Sure.
This is one that is actually used, could be used in Santeria. Yes, please. It could be used in Santeria, and it's also been used practical in Nigeria, right? In the Benin and in the Yoruba tribes. This was what was used for me. When we have this candle, right, what happens? Everything goes okay for that person and possible death, right? Because the symbol that you've seen is a form of egg.
Right.
That's why some people would use egg if they wanted to kill someone. Use egg, and then they would bury it or put it somewhere to kill them. And if the person, that person would die. So this was what was being used for me. Every time I went to sort of fight, my inner fight, they would always do another voodoo on top of another one to keep me bound. So I can't come out of it. That's what really happened to me until I got my deliverance.
This is interesting because there used to be a magazine called the Loot magazine. I think you get like the Dalton's Weekly, these things where they buy and sell. But in the back, they would advertise these mabbats.
These what? Sorry.
Juju men, doctors, Amrabat. I think it's an Asian version of witch doctory. Every culture's got their own, and you could go to them for problems. And one of them is this. And I would say this is a Santon, isn't it?
This is a court. This is a court case.
It's written in
Spanish, but it's written in Spanish. It can be used anywhere, but this particular one is for a court case. Like, people go in there and they'll get that and say, I would like to win a court case. And they'll do certain rituals. It's not just burning the candles. There's others involved as well. Sometimes it might mean that the person might have to use certain oils as well. And might have to also make it to the sea, maybe the 4 elements, earth, water, wind and fire and things like that. And attachment paper, you put the person's name and you put it on there, you burn it, basically, and then you win your court case and you do some chanting.
Where can I buy this?
Actually, when they burn these,
no, I said where can I buy
so
this?
when they burn these, we're selling. We've got loads of them. But they're invoking demons. That's what they're doing. They're invoking demons.
Oh, right.
And there's one that's got the bit of scripture on the back. It's got.
I think this one here, right?
There is one that it's just like, it looks just like an innocent candle. And on the back, it's got script. Just getting it out of the cupboard now. It's got script. So someone could buy it thinking that it's biblical, that it's a good thing to have, but it's not.
This candle here has got the Psalm 45 power. Look at the symbol. Show him the side. Let him see what that is.
So it's got power of love, and you've got the symbols. But on the back, it's got Psalm 45. It's a biblical psalm. So people. It's innocent. It's from God, but please explain.
But do you know what? Apparently, this is meant to bring couples together. And if you have any problems with anyone, that you love and you love someone and they don't love you back, then apparently you use it. Unfortunately, this is King Paimon. This symbol is actually King Paimon. It's Paimon.
But Paimon is one of the realms of demons.
Is the ones that actually destroy witches. For example, you be in a relationship and then you're sleeping with someone, having multiple. That's what he actually deals with. He also deals with fame. If you really want to be famous, or you just want to go from down to top, this comes in a big role, in fame.
We see this sort of playing out in Hollywood, don't we?
Yeah. There's a pattern, and one of the things which is consistent is Baal worship, double L.
Yeah.
And
Bilal
is another name for it. It's the same one, and it's truly damaging, very dangerous, very high. What we could call it high, demon from the pit of hell, and people worship it. And we was at doing some field research the other day, and we went to a crystal shop, and there was an almost life-size statue of Baal. Well, it's about 1.5 to 5
He
foot
likes
tall.
to be called Bilal.
Yeah, and
Does he get angry?
truly horrific. Oh, it looks angry. It scares the life out of you when you see it.
Oh,
No, but if you call him the wrong name, he
Yes,
gets
right.
angry.
Yeah, if you look at the movie The Exorcist, the old, you'd see a statue. It looks very weird. It's like an animal with a little bit of horns and a little bit of wings. But Bilal is the one who really deals with a lot of the police force, politicians, and anything to do with law. He likes to possess, and he likes to give order. Where there is order, that's where he likes to base. He doesn't like to deal with ordinary people. But blood, there has to be bloodshed every single time.
Every time.
What we got here, and these all come from these crystal shops, and this, I don't like touching it. I can't tell you, the first time I touched this was like holding thing that was coated in acid. It might look very innocent.
Go in.
Right,
Yeah.
there, right. It might look innocent. Okay. Now, the most popular name for a pub in London is the Green Man.
That's right.
You know, which is what this thing might be, and someone might buy it. Oh, I love that. Now, if anyone's seen, and part of a satanic ritual is a thing called the chase. What they'll take kids to a wooded area. They will strip them naked, and they will make them run, and they will catch them, and they will beat them, and then they will sodomize them. There's a guy called Darren Joyce. He gives an unbelievably powerful testimony. He had a children's home, and they did it to him there. And one of his abusers, one of the guys to him, was actually the judge to this care home. Right, so it's just incredibly bad, and it's very high up politicians and all sorts doing it. Now that's what they call Moloch, right?
That's right.
The owl, because the owl always gives its prey the freedom before it torments them and kills them.
That's why they.
Right?
That's why they set the kids free and basically like make them run.
Yeah,
That's right. And look at what's in the forehead. That's like when you had a die.
Yeah.
So,
it's got a thing on it.
It is like a symbol which actually opens your third eye. And imagine if someone who's innocent, who's trying to get their third eye open, right? They can get. That's how they give it, like a porthole for the demons to actually just, bless their body and just take over them. So that's very dangerous.
And this is what when we're doing these rituals, the organisers will be wearing things like the abusers, the rapists, whatever we call them. Now, like I said, you could buy that and just think nothing of power in these things.
One more thing.
It's all an inversion, isn't it? Everything's inverted. You've got, it's like you said there, you've got one that's got psalms on it, but then you've got the devil symbols. It's like when you've got, like, say for instance at the Super Bowl, that was like the biggest Baal worship and Moloch worship. Yeah. And they've got everything there. They've got all the Illuminati symbology. They've got everything going on.
And we're buying into this all the time.
Because we think it's innocent.
We have no idea what we're doing.
And do you know why the kill is actually taking place now? Why young people are actually spilling blood? It's partly to do with what you just in the Moloch, what he's just shown you. That deals with blood, and it likes a lot of the young people that are going around killing each other. The knife crime. All of that is all related to this particular entity.
Okay.
Because it needs blood to be spilled.
Would you say that's what is a driving force behind these UK gangs at this moment in time? Do you think it's very demonic?
At
the moment, correct. Very correct.
And also, what Isabella said earlier on, you got intergenerational curses. So you get the tribal regions of Nigeria, and their curses on the family. And, they might not know what they're doing to you. They might have no idea what they're doing. but they're the offspring come from, you know, because we're dealing with demons that don't know their dimensions are different. The time scale doesn't mean anything to them, so it's a total different way of thinking, you know. And it's the same while we cover ourselves in prayer, because we know it has power, right? And again, there'll be a lot of people who dismiss this, go, well, and nonsense, but that's okay. But then ask yourself, why do things go wrong in your life? Why are these things happening? Why do you end up and all this? And why? Because there is a curse being, you know, and like that is like, so sneaky.
Is it like, you know, when you sometimes you just wake up in a bad mood, for instance, and everything seems to go wrong in the day, you know, and it feels like you've got a cloud over you, and you know everything you touch goes wrong, and on that day your missus leaves you lose your job, you stub your toe, everything, it all goes wrong. But there's other days when it's like you wake up with a smile on your face, you're happy, you get a promotion, your missus comes back, or well, maybe leaves, I don't know, depending on your missus, but you know what I mean. But it all depends on your mood, and when it feels like when you've got that cloud on you, it does feel like you've been possessed by something, because you've got no reason for being that way. Sometimes you just are, and you can't explain it.
I mean, this is about souls. This is what it wants, you know. The devil wants to be like the Most High, and it's all deception. The problem you get is Isabella's rare as much as she can totally remember and articulate it. Some of them have no, the memories are totally blacked out through trauma or whatever. And if you've got the multiple personalities, one of the personalities will be loyal to the Satanist, and the moment that exposure comes, it's suicide, self-destruct, suicide.
You know, I just wanted to add just what John has just said. You see, in the beginning, when I was going through my deliverance, I met through Pastor Paul, an advocate worker for Pillar of Fire, which is the church that actually delivered me. And what had actually happened initially when I met you had drugged me so much that I couldn't even remember. And also a lot of the times when I would go to trauma, I would actually block it out of my head. It was a way of taking more drink and more sex in order to forget what was happening to me. And in the beginning, I didn't actually remember, because the other side actually wanted to block my memory. Because you start to talk, when you've experienced it, and then you start to talk, the dark world don't want you exposing them. They hate it. And then the minute you talk about it, do you know, since I've got my deliverance, do you know there's death threats on me? There's even been death threats on the person who was helping me, the advocate worker, to come out of this. There's been death threats through police, there's been death threats everywhere, criminals everywhere.
They tried to burn the church
and they even tried to burn the church down. And even on top of that as well, I've even had, you know, my mother going back to Africa try and get me back in the game, and it's not working, you know, because I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and Jesus Christ, there is no way in which one can be delivered and saved. People can use crystals. I've tried crystals. I've even tried different sorts of going into different religions, but it has not worked for me. But immediately, right, I got my deliverance. I can tell you that all the memories just started coming back. It just like flooding back. But before, I could tell you none of these.
So how did you go through your deliverance? What process did they have to take you through to get you back into, to get all your memories back? And do you feel like now you're no longer possessed? Do you feel that you're completely free of the spirit now?
Yes, I do. Absolutely do. What had happened with myself was because I met the advocate from the Pillar of Fire, they told me, okay, do you know Jesus? And at the time I was like, no, I don't want to know about Jesus, because look at what I've gone through. Even pastors wanted to see me. So for me, I was like, no. But when I met the advocate worker, one of the key things that the advocate worker did was he sat me down, got me to actually really look. You was actually being groomed into sex and underage. You was being groomed. So I had to come to terms, because for so long I had to blame myself for things that I could not control, which was never my fault. And when you deal with guilt and fear, and when you deal with shame, a lot of times the demon or the thing that's inside of you does not want you to think about it. So immediately, because it was Pastor from Pillar of Fire, initially I was being spoken through all night. I was not sleeping for months, where I was actually being spoken to. Look, you was being groomed, right? You was 14 years old, and this man was. When once I got the concept that it was not my fault, that was when I then, confession. Before you get deliverance, you have to want it, one, and secondly, you have to confess. Because when God made the world, God spoke the word. So if you don't confess it with your mouth, then you don't go through your deliverance. And once I confessed it, I realized, and I wanted the help. Then that's when Pastor Patrick came along, and he did the deliverance. He prayed with me. He laid hands on me. But my deliverance didn't happen once. It took about 4 different deliverances for me to
explain what happened, because it wasn't forward.
Okay, what actually happened initially, Pastor Patrick phoned me, sitting in the sofa, and he started praying. I fell to the floor like a snake, wiggling like a snake. And he said, look, she needs to come to the church. And I remember I actually wanted to go myself, because I didn't like the way my life was going. And when I went the first time, he put the sign of the cross on my face. He put hands on my face and started praying, in the name of Jesus, I command you to go. Right? And he realized, he was seeing what was coming out of me. There was two types of entity that was actually coming out of me, because I was on the floor. Usually I don't fall so easily, but I fell, and then I started screaming and crying. Tears was flowing. And that was just the first time. The first time, I think I was being told that about 6 demons came with me. And it's crazy, because the day when I was supposed to go for deliverance, when I came back, there was somebody who lived sort of close to me, who was actually going to the prostitution to take me to Saudi Arabia to get me sacrificed. My head was to be cut off. I was actually supposed to get sacrificed. I saw the person outside the train station when I was just coming back home, and I've just had deliverance. Imagine what a coincidence. So the second time I went again, and 3 more demons came out of me. Then I went again the third time, and then then he prayed for the spirit that ancestral spirit that has come from my mother, and he mentioned mammy water, right? And then I started screaming. At one time I was swearing at him. It was that bad. And then that was the third deliverance. The fourth one was the most recent one, where he had to pray against every soul tie, because so much men in my lifetime that I couldn't even count, that I think I've taken quite a lot of sperms, where there's been sperm is a blood, so that's the soul. There's that soul tie, spiritual tie, and to the point where even after I'd come out of that, before my deliverance, do you know that I would be sleeping and I would actually hear, I know I'm actually calling men's name in my sleep, certain men that I have not even slept with for many years, or that I've never, it was just so bizarre. When I was possessed, right, I used to sleep at night, and sometimes I'll have my bra on, I'll wake up and I know something has been having sex with me spiritually, and my bra will come off, but I didn't take it off. And I'll be sweating, and I know I can feel a cum, because I know someone has actually.
Does that not terrify you though? Like, that would scare the life out of me.
It did. But a lot of the times, what I did was I used weed. I would smoke a lot of marijuana to take away the pain.
Right,
In
okay.
fact, there was even a time where I could smoke about £100 worth of marijuana within maybe 10 days. It was that bad because I was smoking more. I didn't like to be by myself in the house. I was very, very scared. I could feel things moving in the house. So it was very intense. People hated me.
But people couldn't be around you, could they?
People could not be around me, and people could not look at me in the eyes for too long. People really, once I looked at what I could do, was I could look at for example, I could think of I want sex from a man. Even if the man doesn't like me, he will end up having sex with me. I could cause a man to have sex with me, even if he didn't want. At times, the thing would take over. Pastors came to my house and they were masturbating, and I wasn't even dressed sexually. It actually caused a pastor to actually masturbate right in front of me. So it was very intense.
And this was all from a ritual, a sexual ritual that was put on her to be brought over to make money out of sex, and it worked. You know, and you know, had Isabella not sought deliverance, I need to explain who Pastor Patrick is. Pastor Patrick is, I mean, he is a Mike Tyson of priests. He's a Nigerian guy. You've never seen anyone so strong in his sermons as this guy. His sole job is to rid this world of demons, and he does a good job. He's got a ministry. He set up himself a church. He's an incredible individual, and he's got a huge track record.
John?
It's over in East London. It's over in Dagenham in East London. I think they've got a website. It's a charity, you know. So if anyone
feel free to name it. You can mention it. Whatever it is.
They're a registered charity as well, you know, and they work strictly on you know, the donations coming in from the congregation, and they're always struggling, but he does good. I mean, the guy saves lives, and he does, you know. But you go in the church, and he said, "Look, I want to show you something in the carpet. There's stains on the carpet." And he said, "You know what that is?" I said, "No." He said, "That's blood, where people have vomited blood through deliverance."
Yeah.
And he said, "You know, people have been thrown against the walls." He said, "I've been thrown against the wall."
Yeah.
You know, and
it's like
I know one of the advocate workers, right, who actually helped me to know Pastor Patrick. Do you know that particular advocate worker went through? He actually did a blood ritual that he was meant to be a part of the Rothmans, and literally when he went through his deliverance, that was on a different scale. He was through the chair. It felt like 10 million people could not hold him down.
He was, if we need to explain, this guy is an outreach worker, and he phenomenal individual, but he doesn't want to, you know, be named or go on camera. But he was, in his previous life, he was high up, like voodoo priest, as it were, and totally given his life over to Jesus now. And but apparently his deliverance was incredibly violent, you know, because
just about the voodoo, it's like, obviously, I understand it's one of the oldest religions on the earth. So you said it goes back to Babylon and like way before and stuff. So what are all these entities, what they actually go to? Are they all demons, or do they perceive? Like I've watched a few, and like I said, that I see them spit alcohol onto it, and they put a dagger into it, and they'll, like you said, that they'll wish best for their family or something like that until it's delivered. Then and say if they got what they wanted, then they'd come and they'd sacrifice the animal on top of the thing. Is there any part of it where it's the other side, if that makes sense? Is there people out there who are trying to heal people and they think they are, and it's not healing them? Is there like a misconstrued?
I think what it is that for me personally, when I went through what I went through, I've been going to church, but I've still been actively in the sex, you know, still having sex. And a lot of when the advocate, when the worker actually saw me from Pillar of Fire, and he was like, "Hold on, you've been going to church, many churches, and not one pastor hasn't even picked up that you're possessed." And I said, But that's because a lot of there's a lot of people out there who claim that they, you know, that they're pastors and they have, and some of them deal with a cult themselves, because especially I know especially a lot of African, because I grew up in an African church, even from Nigeria. I remember going to Nigeria and being in the church for 40 days, and I slept in the dark, and the church was massive, you know, as a child. But a lot of the times, these pastors actually are into full-blown occult themselves, and they're into voodoos, and they go in. Do you know, a pastor in Africa might even go to they might go to the man called the juju man, and then they'll give him something on animal and tell him, bury it underneath your church, and he'll bury it underneath, and people start coming in. And he's doing magic, he can do miracles, but the miracles is not coming from God. But when you see, the thing was, when I went into those kind of churches, when I was possessed, I knew who they were, because Satan knows its own, right? Yeah. So I knew who they were. So a lot of the times when they're doing their miracles and people are falling down, I'm just sitting there laughing and thinking, don't effing touch me, you understand? So at the end of when I saw Pastor Patrick, I'm telling you, this was a different. This is something that God has actually He's given him the gift. He actually has the gift of healing and the gift of deliverance. It's genuine. And this man, do you know, every money that he gets, I think maybe all of the people that have gone into the ministry, he has helped them, the homeless ones, to get homes. He's actually helped a boy who was once being raped. Right, he took him out of the game, you know, out of being they raped him and they used him for prostitution. Took him out, moved him out of London, gave him a job and gave him a house to live and work. So he's really doing big things.
He's a highly benevolent man. And but going back to your question about can good come out of the occult, like the healing? If there's an injury, someone's got cancer and they go to the juju man, or they go to the Santeria priestess and all that.
Yeah.
Well, look at it this way, right? The biggest benevolent charity in the UK, right, if not the Western world, is Freemasonry, right?
Yeah,
they build hospitals.
Now we're getting
they pay for air ambulances. But what is the source? What is the source of the energy, right? What you're dealing with is a deceptive spirit, right? And it will come as a lamb, but it will go out as a lion. Trust me. Right, trust me. Now, right. This is right. Look at this thing, Sean. Right now, this Santeria. Okay, so someone wants to go to Santeria, and they want wealth, and they want nice things. They just want a life, and especially when you've got a country, you know, like Haiti, which is racked with poverty, you know, and there is a lot of political injustice and corruption, right? And you are surrounded by this, and when you do live a just, worthy life. And I know it, man. You skint, you know. Serving God isn't a wealthy way forward, you know. Not that way, anyway. In the heart, of course, you know. Right. but they'll go there, and when they go there, right, the Oshons, the spirits, they choose the person. So the person will go there. They will spit the rum. They call it the aqua diente, right? They will spit the rum at them. They will lay a feast for the gods. They will take them to the water. The same thing, you'll see water. This will lead into the body in the Thames that we saw. Okay, it will be benevolent to start with. It will look like it is a cushy, nice little thing. When you see the Church of Satan, right? You read the manifesto for the Church of Satan that Anton LaVey put out there. We're against bullying. We're against injustice. We are for nature. And you sit there and think that's the most ultimate political party.
That's the Labour Party, isn't it?
Can it worship?
Yeah.
But then. It's like the spider's web. The nearer you get to the centre, you're going to see it. You know, there will be child rape. There will be sacrifice. And the testimonies I've had where babies have been stabbed, and it's appalling. You don't know what you're getting into. You don't know. But same as this thing, all of a sudden, you know, it's really weird because it's a spirit, one of the few spirits, they've got this collection of spirits, will choose the person, right? It might be the water spirit, like Isabella was saying, the Mammy water, the Leviathan. They've got different names, but ultimately the same thing. Or it might be the spirit of the East, the spirit of the West. Will choose a person. Now, you look at the Harry Potter films when they go into their thing and they put the hat on and the house chooses the person. And
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, what's going on here? You know, and then it'll all be nice. They'll all know each other, but where does it stop? You know, a debt needs to be paid off.
And you know, one more thing.
Yeah.
And once they do the sacrifice, once they offer, the demons will always keep coming back to ask for more.
Yeah.
First, you start off small, but sooner or later they're gonna ask you. The higher you get, the more you're gonna have to sacrifice. At some point, you're gonna have to kill a child, or you're going to have. It's not going to be just animal. It doesn't just stop there.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be blood. Physical blood has to be spilled, where you have to appease the spirits.
I'm not being funny, but that doesn't half sound like what's going on at the moment, though, doesn't it? Like in the world.
Exactly what I was going to say to you.
Exactly.
Isabella said something which is really typical of what I was getting, right?
Mm.
I was saying to people that they want help, and I say, look, if you've been involved in the occult, you've given your house as a home to the demons, right? It says it in the Bible. They prowl around like roaring lions waiting for a host, you know, waiting for a home. And and this goes back to the Great Flood, and there's a theology, a demonology behind this, right?
Yeah.
But when you had the children that were placed into orphanages that were run by the Catholic faith, the Anglican faith, because they're all as grubby as each other to a certain degree, you know. This is one thing with evil. It doesn't know colour, and it doesn't know social standing, and it doesn't know denomination. It doesn't. It does what it does. It's like a hot knife through butter. There were children that on the first night were held down and they were sodomized by a priest, right? And then they were beaten, and then they were made to beg for forgiveness for being dirty. So do you think that person, when they're older, is going to sit and go and see a priest to be exercised?
Exactly.
They ain't. And if Isabella said exactly that, coming from West Africa and being involved in the black community and the black churches in the UK, pastors were masturbating in front of her, and they were turning up at the meetings when she was having the big gang orgies were put on her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are Saturday we're off to see a Vatican appointed exorcist, and he's retired. He said he's 80. He said I've had enough. It's just a full-time job. Pastor Patrick, he's doing it every single day of the week. You know, this man is relentless because there is a need for him, and there are good people out there. But it is a minefield.
It's weird. We don't see it though, do we? We don't see it in our everyday life. We don't see like evidence of this kind of thing. But it's only when you look below the surface. Well, you mentioned the body in the river.
Well, look, I mean, how many people? You know, they go to Glastonbury, they go to these arts and crafts and these crystal fairs, and they buy that, and that's a nice yellow. You know, and look at this thing. That might even make someone laugh. Oh, look, that's funny. It looks like a potato. I'll buy that. I'll burn that.
Show them
and they smell lovely.
Look at the reversible candle. They haven't even seen the double action reversible. Look at the eye of the Horus. Show them.
Yeah. See, that's got the pyramid and eye of Horus. And it's reversible because obviously that's to reverse a curse. Yeah. And they're very fragrant. So, you know, it's that. Look, when you say, Stuart, about when we're not seeing this now. Child prostitution, again, I'm going to upset people at that time, but I don't want to get caught up in a seminar on semantics. If you was to go and look for child prostitution, you ain't going to find it, right? It's going to be very difficult. You shut your door to it, it ain't there. You don't want to listen to it, it isn't there. You proactively got to go and hunt it down. And once you see it, it's so easy. Yeah. Every kid's home will be losing kids to this. Every truanting kid from school may well be involved in this. Absconders from care homes. Well, where are they going? You know, they're not sleeping on the streets or kipping around or sofa surfing around houses. They're being put on the game. Yeah. It's there. It's in. And then we got like Isabella. No one would have known what she was going through or what was going on with her. But she was taken to big orgies, which most of them were ritualistically based on as well. It is there. But
I even came out, you know, I came out of my body. There were times I would have sex and I came out of my body and I saw what was going on and I couldn't get back in my body.
Looking down on yourself.
Yeah, looking down. Yeah, where I finished having the sex, and there was rituals that was being done where people was all around me, and I was having sex, and then but I was naked in the middle, and I came out of my body, and I was actually looking down, and I could see myself.
Was that you, or was that like one of your No, but was it like one of your like possessed or demons or something that was looking down, watching, or was it actually you looking down, seeing? No. Like the innocent you, for instance, looking down on...
Yeah.
So it was
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. And even my case was so bad that, in fact, after Pastor Patrick delivered me, he actually got into a bad car crash.
Really?
He actually had a car crash, yes.
He pissed off the fire fund, didn't he?
Yeah, it was so bad. It was actually because they didn't want me to come out of it, because I'd been making them. The whole point is I was making them loads of money, and I was supposed to be beheaded, because once I'm being killed, that power was meant to be taken away from me. The demon was actually meant to come from me to somebody else who was supposed to take what was inside of me. And obviously you get so powerful. Just one more thing. If you guys want to answer, if you want certain questions answered, I have someone that can answer the questions. But what he's saying, he wants his face to be cut out. He doesn't want to show his face.
It's live stream at the moment.
Yeah, we'd have to. We could pre-record that.
We could do something another date, because we've got a guy who was a demonologist.
Yeah.
He was very, very high up in the occult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now this man, he really is a little warrior for Christ, you know. And
we can pre-record that and just do it audio only. But yeah, that's fine. I can
the guy is an oracle of how it works. He will explain how it works in society, but with the politicians, with the criminals, with the businessmen, with the drug importation, it's all so connected.
Interlinked.
Yeah, fantastic.
Now, one of the things when we go on about the occultic and hidden nature of this, why it doesn't get out. You know, when we look at what went on with things like Elm Guest House, you know, the children's home in South London where kids were taken. Now, I've had victims of there that said they were taken from a care home and they were abused. Others were taken there and put into porn films. Others would say that they were taken there for a ritual. And one person come to me and said, I would organise the children to be taken there because it was for cult members. So the child wouldn't have been sacrificed there in a dark mass, but the kid would be taken there to have sex with a high-up cult member, because that cult member maybe came in from another country or whatever, was in London, wanted to have sex with whatever they wanted. Maybe they wanted a little ginger-haired white boy, a little black girl, whatever. That would be put on for them, because part of what they do is paedophilia.
Was that...
You know?
So just for 1 second, John, were they the sort of people that was having sex with you, Isabella? Were they the people? You said that you would have men come and have sex with you. Were they men that were within the occult that was basically taking your power and using your power, or were they just random guys that were just paying to have sex with a child? So that's what I'm saying. Were they just punters, or were they actually in? Do you understand like what I mean?
Right. What were you saying? The men that had sex with you, were they in the cult, or were they just men that paid for sex with you?
Both. It was both ways. There were ones that actually paid. There was actually a mistress who they paid, which I wasn't even aware when I was going to these parties for me. And there were also they were also paying certain people in other occultic men will come, but money was always being taken.
Right. So
on behalf of me.
But
it was still occultic men. All the people there was an occultic man that was coming to have sex with me, which they had paid for me already, and then there was also punters who was also paying for me as well to have sex.
But you remember them cloaked at one occasion, don't you?
What the one where they were wearing all black, and that's the one I said I came out of my body. I got into it was actually a sex ritual that I did another one here in England, where I was in one big mansion house. I don't even know whereabout I was, but I was out of it. I'd been having sex with all these so much men, sperm was everywhere, and then I remember being in the middle, and then I opened my eyes. There was these guys dressed all in black, and I was looking down, and I saw myself, and I was just I was there looking so vulnerable on the floor. Yeah.
I'm not bloody surprised.
There's another thing I want to ask you. You know that you said that you took so many deliverances to get rid. Is it the same way getting possessed? Would they do multiple rituals constantly on you to keep the demon in you, or would
That's correct. That's correct, because they have to keep doing it. Yes, that's correct. And sometimes they would, keep doing more rituals, because what it is, everyone has come in contact with me. So one person could be coming in because they want a promotion, and then they may turn around and say, okay, go and deal with Paimon, for example, and then they'll go and do another sacrifice, and then Paimon. And so when the person comes to me, they have sex with me, I'm then possessed with Paimon. And then some of them even had succubus. Some of them even, I remember having sex with even people that was actually possessed as well. And we exchanged DNA. Yeah.
I was just because obviously when you hear this with, say for instance, with these Britney Spears type people, it's kind of, they're probably going through the same sort of ritual stuff, aren't they? When it's constantly repeated on them, is that the type of mental control as well to keep you mentally?
Well, look at Katy Perry. You know, her family, they were travelling preachers. She was in the choir, and this girl has totally sold her soul. You know, there's a guy which I think you should check out if you can. His name is called Jon Ramirez, and he was heavily into Santeria. Ramirez, R-A-M-R-E-R-E-Z.
Yeah.
And he's a Puerto Rican, and he become a high priest. And he goes on about, he basically takes a film crew out and shows them exactly what we've shown you here. And even the statues, don't take them into your home, because it's idolatry, and they're loaded with demons, and they will just, the same as burning this, you know, the demons are coming, right? You're just releasing them.
You just remind us, like, they do rub it in our face, don't they, John? Because they've done that Annabella, didn't they? That doll with the demon, and it was possessed.
Yeah, of course.
And they're trying to show us, aren't they? That it's in our face.
It's everywhere now. I mean, but the Jon Ramirez, he actually calls out Marilyn Manson, and he says, Marilyn Manson got a young 8-year-old boy involved in a ritual and got him possessed, and the kid had to go for a really messy deliverance. And he said, this guy is a worm, he's a pervert, he's a paedophile. Calling Marilyn Manson out. And he says to him, I will meet you anywhere. And he said, I've gone to God, but you'll see a tough guy. And he actually threatened to smash his head in. But of course, what's happened? Marilyn Manson has now come out that he's under investigation for child abuse allegations. We have the same. Yeah. He's under investigation at the moment. We had it with Ian Watkins from the Lost Prophets, the band now. You know, he got a 40-year prison sentence, 39-year prison sentence, and they will not disclose the full extent of the abuse. Apparently involved babies. So he's a well-known, and he was living with that presenter Fern Cotton for years.
Oh, from BBC Radio.
Yeah, and Ian Watkins, which is a presenter, TV presenter, but his girlfriend before her, she came forward and said, how could anyone not know that this man had a sexual interest in children? So this then begs the question, well, what does Fern Cotton know? I'll be scratching my head.
I always wondered that. I always wondered that about that guy.
Yeah, you look it up. I mean, you've got the one of the members of the band, the Stranglers, has made a video. I think it's called The Coast, and it is so satanic. It is so loaded with Satanism. We got to look at the actors. What actors consistently? Johnny Depp consistently plays these dark, morose characters. Nicole Kidman, again, people that have been named time and time again. The Kidman family, political.
Tony Kidman is her dad, isn't he? Tony Kidman, and he's isn't he a paedophile or something like that? He was an alleged paedophile, should I say?
Yeah, of course, yeah, and a Satanist, and she always plays these very occultic characters.
And she's been in some films. I think the film The Others, I believe it was. I think she's does a bath scene or something with her son in it, and I remember watching that thing, and that's weird. Like that's not right.
I mean, the whole lot. But what we got to ask the question: why is it not coming out? Well, it doesn't come out because you look at how paedophilia is so entrenched in our system. When we had Sir Peter Heyman, head of MI6, paedophile, right? We've now got Leon Britton, an alleged paedophile, got put out a thing alleged, and he has been mentioned to me by quite a few officers, right? Again, he was Home Secretary, so he was in charge in the government for law and order, right? And then people, Jeffrey Dickens, gave him a file involving satanic ritual abuse, and he said he lost it. Jimmy Savile, we can go on and on and on.
And even look at the coverage, even for myself. When I came out last year to the police. I finally had the guts to go to the police and report the incident. Do you know, they just brushed it down. They just didn't deal with it. They just left it there. They interviewed them and they let it go. And I just thought to myself, in fact, even one of the girls who was actually taking me to go and do the prostitution, who was being paid for it, when I actually mentioned her name, do you know that the police just said, we're not going to deal with that? Because they actually know her.
Unbelievable.
They actually know her. And in fact, when I was walking around with the girl would literally, she could hit men, she could do whatever, sell drugs, and the police would not arrest her. Now it all makes sense. But before, it did not make sense to me. And I thought, wow, this is really so much corruption. Yeah. Even the police, all the prostitution and everything is all interlinked with the occult and it's all so interlinked. It's so unbelievable.
When you look at what Isabella's just said, that this girl's working with impunity, right? When I was on that Vice inquiry involving the young girls, the one running it was a woman prostitute, right? The unit had known about her for over a decade, and there was allegations she was involved with kids. She could do anything she wanted, because she was in with judges. She was in with a judge at Hallsbury Road Magistrates Court. She was in with a copper, a local copper to the area she was working. You know, she was connected to someone from the BBC. So, you know, these are these connections. But then when we take it further, the unit I was on, the Vice unit, the Detective Chief Inspector is named on the RAINS list as an active Satanist. Now, I set up a class action where we went to the Independent Office of Police Complaints, right, and said, why is this man not been dealt with? Why has this not come out? If it has been looked at, please let us know. If not, I'm telling you now, this guy is alleged to be involved in Satanism, right? And they told me, don't ever write to us again, please, Mr. Wedger. They banned me from complaining. I'm not a serial complainer. I've complained twice to them. You know, and you would have thought someone would come and want to talk to me. I provided the RAINS list to them. You know, the RAINS list has been given to David Cameron, you know. And it's so the government know about it, you know.
Yeah, but I'm sure though that if you're making out with a pig's head, I don't think you're fully there, are you?
Unbelievable. I mean, incredible, isn't it? You know,
that was released in the newspapers, and everyone went, never mind.
Yeah, that's it. I know, it's absolutely incredulous. I mean, that is a ritualistic thing he's done. Yeah. It was David Cameron who put his penis in a pig's head.
Yeah.
And yet nothing was ever. And
that's it. Yeah, in your face.
Yeah, someone throws a cat in a bin, and the world wants to kill her. You know.
Yeah.
How appalling must it? Or someone says something transphobic, for example. You know, again, I don't really want to sort of. Jake this interview into that line, but you know, all hell breaks loose. Yet you can be doing this to children with total impunity and making money out of it, and nothing is done.
Yeah.
And then what we're looking at now with Isabella and her previous world, this is another place where the police will not go.
They refuse to. They just refuse. And even it went to the point that even the girl who was doing it, her boyfriend was always dealing with drugs, and they knew that. They let her still keep her child. In fact, they took my kids away from me, and then top of that, they literally, she used to give me, because I didn't know what was going on when I came in the country, like I said, and she would give me parcels to go and give to certain people. She told me don't open it. I wouldn't open it. I'll just go and give it. I don't even, I'm giving drugs. And then afterwards, she will cut some of the drugs and take it, and then she'll set me up to be beaten or to be called, though she'll turn around and be like, why is it that everywhere you go, why is it that the drugs are missing, money is missing? I was always being accused to the point where I would actually even lie and say that, yes, I've taken, because I'm scared. I've got guns right in my face, on the table. So it was a really scary world.
But in respect to what you went through, Isabella, through like the voodoo and stuff like that, and with your culture, the West African culture, they haven't got a voice, especially the girls. And what Isabella's looking at doing is giving these girls a voice to get them to speak out about the Satanism in their communities. So we're talking about the juju, we're talking about the Santeria, we're talking about the black magic, the black witchcraft, and the voodoo, and the opiate.
I'm starting to see with this Satanism though. It doesn't actually have any. It's all universal. Do you know what I mean? It's in every aspect. Do you understand what I mean? It's everywhere. It's literally like I've never. When I started to notice it years ago, like just. Do you know what I mean? Just seeing like the symbols and all this sort of stuff. I feel like they've ramped it up now, especially since what we've been doing.
Yeah, definitely.
With us being inside the house as well, I've noticed it a lot on TV as well.
They're showing their hand now, aren't they? They
they
used to
are.
hide in the shadows, and now Evil's just done this and it's just gone, I'm here. What are you going to do? And
it does feel like that, John, because I've actually been watching a pastor, and he's from Canada, and he was explaining about the men of God from, say, for instance, who fought the Civil War to get their freedoms and all this sort of stuff. Them type of men don't exist today.
They've gone. And there's been a demasculating as well. There's been a need to remove the man from the family. And they've broken down marriage. So marriage basically is a thing of the past. And we've got the children now, the parents can't control them now. They've lost them to these gadgets, these devices. No one takes their kids to church. The church hasn't done anyone any favours. Now, maybe that's part of the plan, to have paedophile priests. Absolutely endemic. I mean, it's been an appalling situation that should have been dealt with. And anyone who abuses a child under the auspice of being a person of God, well, there's a special place in hell for them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're spiritually lost, the devil takes ownership. And what we get now is a thing called idolatry. People are mashing up religions to make it suit themselves. So I think, Jesus is a good guy, but I'm not going to go to church because it's full of paedophiles. Buddha's good because it loves animals, and I like that. And then Hinduism, I like the food. That's all great. So they're putting this mishmash together, and it's idolatry. They don't realise what they're doing. They're classed as lukewarm. Whitewash tombs, whatever the Bible says about them. But we are in a battle.
That's very similar to people's like political beliefs as well. Like people go, I'm Labour, I'm Conservative. You couldn't, if you said to them, well, tell me anything that's on their manifesto or on their policies. They couldn't tell you a policy. They couldn't tell you who their local MP was or anything, but they align themselves politically with that. And it's a very similar sort of mindset. You go, I'm Christian. Okay, what's the word of God and blah, blah. They couldn't tell you because they won't go to a church or anything.
Do you know, the faith with the least attendance of a place of worship, Judaism, only 17% of Jews attend a place of worship, right? The lowest. It's incredibly low, and again, they align themselves with a religion, but they don't practice it, and they think it's going to protect them. They think going to church, not getting a parking ticket, not swearing, shaking the vicar's hand and having a cup of tea with him and a cucumber sandwich is going to protect them. Let me tell you now, it ain't going to protect you. This is a battle, and it's hardcore now. I never thought my life would go the way it took me, but it did. And the things I've seen and the things I continue to see, You know, I'm getting educated all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and what the one thing it's consolidating me is pushing me more and more towards God and towards Jesus, and it is because I see the bad out there, and the attacks. Do you know what I mean?
When evil is so blatantly in your face, like how it is at the moment, you'd have to be a lunatic to not see what's going on and to say, well, hang on, if evil exists, then God's surely got to exist, and I'm going to pick his side.
A rational mind would think that, and if people only knew, if they could only open their eyes beyond what we can see and see these demons are out there. Now, you get people that have come from very traumatized backgrounds. They have a hypersensitive awareness, right? Yeah. They're like foxes, and they can see things, and they smell them a mile off. They smell a wrong and a mile off, and they smell a paedophile a mile off.
Because they know the signs, though, don't they?
How many people have said about Jimmy Savile, that bloke's a wrong 'un. That bloke's a wrong 'un. Loads of people, you know, would have said he's just wrong. There's something not right about him.
Him out the Sex Pistols go on. Piers Morgan said that he got through out the BBC for bringing it up.
Yeah. Johnny Rotten, John Lydon. Yeah, you know, and but unfortunately, it's 20 years later. It's not good enough. Now you get police whistleblowers. I'm not denigrating anyone who stands up. I love them for standing up, but standing up once you've retired, 20 years down the line, is a bit like watching an old woman getting mugged and then ignoring it, and then saying 20 years later, actually, I saw that old woman get mugged, and you think you want to be praised for that?
Yeah.
Coppers,
it's like these. It's like these Me Too actresses as well that they've made all their millions. So they've got their 10 movies and their 200 million quid in the bank, and they go, oh, by the way, Harvey Weinstein, he fucked me as well. Well, if you spoke out 10 years ago, you might have stopped all the other girls from getting it. You know.
But it just isn't good enough. You've got to take a stand. Now you're going to come up against resistance. Isabella's had death threats for standing up. You know, and what she wants to do is empower other people in her community. Speak out against these Christian pastors that are actually doing voodoo. You know, about the witchcraft in your community that is going on. Yeah. You know, and it's the same with what I did. I stood up whilst I was working, and my God, did I pay for it? But the game ain't over yet. You know, and hopefully, you know, my name now has gone out to millions. Now that's not why I do it. This isn't about entertainment. We're not going to podcast to say criminality, how funny criminality is, you know, and I did this and I shot him, I stuff in. You know, get stuff. We're not doing that. We're doing this to empower and to educate, you know, and to make people understand that there is a dark, dirty world out there. And the more you know about it, the more you can protect yourself and your kith and kin and your children, you know.
That's right. And you see one of the problems with the black community, which I keep seeing, is because these black children are being raised, don't say nothing, you know, so it's keep your privacy to yourself, be strong. So a lot of the times people will be going through all these abuse, and they're keeping it in, and you know, they don't know who to talk to. When you go to try and talk to somebody, it's like it's either you're being judged or they think that you're mentally deranged, and a lot of the times people just think, you know what, who's there to really help me? So I'm just gonna not say nothing and just suffer in silence. But enough is enough, because you know, there's loads of black and even the whites as well who are really suffering, because with me, when I came into the country, I went straight. It didn't take me long to actually go into the care system. The care system actually failed me. Do you know, after I'd reported what my stepfather had done, even the care system did not put me under protection. They just put me in a bed and breakfast as a 14-year-old girl. I'm in a bed. What am I doing in bed and breakfast? And there's loads of people that are involved, you know, very criminals, people that are pedophiles, people that could kill, and I'm left, you know, among the wolves. So, you know, I really want people out there.
Yeah, but also when you get macho cultures, you know, for a man to come forward, you know, especially like with Jamaica with the batty man thing that they have, you know, you know, what if you've been raped, you know, as a kid, as a boy, by another man? Are they going to speak out? Well, there's a good chance they're not. Because it's going to be demasculated, and they might be judged as being a batty man or whatever. We've got to stop being snowflakey, and I know it's a term that's overused, and we've got to say things as they are now.
Yeah.
Because I'm not here to placate an adult. I don't care what adults do to each other. They can stick things up each other all day long. I couldn't give a shit, right? But I tell you what, you don't do it to children.
Yeah.
You don't. You leave the kids alone.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. That's the line. I think, and that's the line for everyone. Women and children are off limits. Men are fair game to a certain extent. Because a man and a man can fight or whatever, but you leave the women and children alone. And in any society that allows that, and they talk about like the late stage abortions that's going on at the moment, which I believe is got to be satanic. There's got to be something in that. But any society that allows that kind of thing, and we don't protect our children, we are doomed to fail. And we need to be standing up against that. I 100% agree with you.
Well, there's a film that's just come out in America, and it's got something pregnant in the title, and it's about a girl's road trip to get an abortion.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Appalling.
And that's entertainment.
Absolutely appalling.
Or what about Cuties that was on Netflix? You know, like especially, I mean, Isabella could obviously must be able to resonate with that. They've got the young immigrant girls that are basically being forced into prostitution. You know, they've come from the poor African countries. They've come into France or wherever. And this is a film. This is entertainment. And you're like, what?
Yes.
What world do we live in where that is entertainment?
I know.
Who's watching it?
I've actually seen the film. I've seen the film that you're talking about.
Jesus Christ.
It's the most cruelest thing ever. And you see, one of the reasons why they do that is because they live poor in Africa, and it's always to do with poverty, because there's no money, and then they'll even sell their own. You know, their own brothers would be giving their own sisters out, and mothers would be giving their own sisters out, you know, and lying to them that they're actually coming into work, but they're not actually working. And on top of that, they have to do a ritual, right, from in Africa first to actually prove that, look, where you're going to work, right, you cannot live until they actually give you the permission to actually, you know, sell yourself and then pay it. It's a form of slavery. It's another form of slavery, I do believe. So it's ridiculous.
Isabella, do you think that they're putting these things now so blatant, like doing that type of show now, to really desensitize us from it? So when you do have people speak out, it's not so powerful. It's like taking the power, because people are so desensitized. Oh, it's all right. Do you understand what I mean? Because they're pushing it on the population in the masses so much, it's desensitizing them. So when people are talking out, it's not like that. That's what I feel like with some of these shows, what they're doing with the children in it.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I also think what it is as well is it's a form of them really, because they in Africa, so they think, how is the message going to go out? Say they could make it in form of a film. So I really think there's in Africa there's not, because you have the corrupt people, but then you also have the ones who actually want all of these things to stop, but they don't know how to stop, because there's so much corruption even within the, you know, in terms of the government.
Yeah.
Over there, because even the governments are also aware of what's going on, and they don't really care unless it's to do with money. So there's so much corruption that there's not much that people can send the message out that would even help these girls. Look at Boko Haram. Yeah. You know, look at the Islamic girls, you know, that was being taken. So there's a lot going on, which it feels like there is nobody there to really help these children. And it's so unfortunate. It's very, very sad.
And then you get charities like Oxfam that have gone out to Haiti and they've been having sex with the kids.
I know.
You know, and it's appalling. There's a big investigation at the moment into Oxfam and how much has gone on now. But when you look at the television, Netflix, you've got these things like Lucifer, Wiccan, or whatever it is, and all it is just glorifying the demonic. Yeah. You know, and you know, you got the 20-somethings and the noughties, you know, the 30-somethings. they're so entrenched and indoctrinated by the telly, they don't see any harm in it. I talk to my boys and my neighbours, they're of that sort of 20-30s age, and they were going, oh, Lucifer, it's a good thing. I said, but it's about the devil. Yeah, oh, yeah, but he does good. I said, but he don't. If you knew what I knew about the fruits of sin and what the devil does, it's appalling. It leads to death. But they don't see it. It's entertainment. And they're slowly doing that. But yet there's no programs like Jesus on.
I'm a heavy metaler, and I've been throwing up the devil horns for years, and it's only like you know what I mean, and it's only I know it's just a symbol, but when you look at the actual symbology of doing that, exactly, and it is kind of we are innocently following these satanic rituals subliminally, like when you look at the 2012 Olympics, for instance, and they had the Exorcist theme tune. They had Boris Johnson laying in a hospital bed. They had all the children being chased around by the Grim Reaper. And then you had pyramids everywhere, all the way around. I mean, that whole thing, was a satanic ritual. The whole thing. And it all came true now.
And very predictive as well. Yeah, exactly. And you saw the same thing with the tunnel in Switzerland.
Yeah,
that they opened. And it was Baal worship, the whole thing. You see it with Madonna, she takes on the bull. And the other thing is this advert, moneysupermarket.com, and they've got the bull there. Mm-hmm. And you think, what's the bull doing there? Well, because it's to do with money and it's Baal worship. And that's why you've got the bull is the stock market in New York.
Yeah.
You know? So that's why you see the bull everywhere. Yeah. And that's what they used to worship, the bull.
Yeah. They've done it with the Apple phone, haven't they? With the Apple bitten out of it, and that's the Apple what Eve bit into.
Yeah, that's right. That's a temptation, isn't it? You know,
the temptation. So they're just trying to tell you that this is going to be your downfall. This is what's going to destroy the human race.
It's part of the brainwashing of the new generation.
Yeah, if
you have someone who has the experience in order to tell these young people that, look, I've been through it, and this is what, I understand what you're going through, and to try and stop the young people from making the same mistakes that we made. So that's where, we need a lot of advocate workers out there to really speak, live into these kids, because a lot of the times they're just so glued to the TV. It's unbelievable. And, their iPad and their phones. So it's like there's no sense of reality, but rather of the virtue sort of reality. Yeah. So it's time that we start, really advocating for the young ones, the new generation, because they're the new, they're going to be the next, world leaders and stuff. So, yeah.
Just you talking about next generation, so I don't know what your thoughts would be on this, like both of you two, but do you think they're going to try and bring all these religions together and bring one?
Well, they've
been doing that for a while now, because that's where you
is this where you were saying about them trying to mishmash this all together? This is where we're getting all these spiritual movements coming in now, and all.
Correct.
Is this what the whole idea is, to make us all that confused? We don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying?
It's happening right in front of our eyes, and that's why you would look around. Everyone's doing tarot card readings, right? That if you look online, you'd see one of the most dangerous guys called E.A. Coating, right? Who is becoming a living god, right? He will tell you about all the 9 kings, the demonic kings, and he'll talk you through, and also do live rituals on live TV and teaching people how to use demonic grimoires and things like that. And the kids, it's a form. They will bring the whole religion together. They've started it because there's a new movement that's been happening now for a while. I joined it for a little while before I actually got my deliverance, when I was joining the Hebrew Israelites, and I did my own research and learned about the Jewish faith and things like that. And all of that is sort of to bring everyone all in one. So Jew, right? That's why you have the ISIS, you have the Zionists, and then you have the, you have the Islam. There was even a Bible that I was reading where it's mentioned, the Jewish Bible. It's got Hebrew writings, and it's also got Aramaic together. So it's like they bring in everything all in one. And this is that's part of the new world order, is everyone has to think the same, move the same, free will, do whatever you want, worship Lucifer, and that's what really it's about, is to glorify the kingdom of darkness, not the kingdom of light. So
and when they go to the occult, they do it for reward and money and power and privilege, and they get it straight away. But you go to God, it's in His time. But someone said to me, "Look, listen, it's so easy," and he said, the devil will reward you instantly, right? But there's always a debt. Jesus will do it in His time, but it's for free because He loves you.
That's right.
And it's so easy, and that's a way to gauge people as well. They do it because they want to do it, because they want to help, And if anyone wants something in return, there's something wrong there.
Jesus is interesting in itself anyway, because from what my understanding, what happened to him was he got put on that cross by the Jewish bankers of that time, if you could call them that.
But the ones who put him on the cross were the ones who welcomed him in 5 days before, and they praised him and they loved him. So, and this is what they'll do. So it's
referring story happening with him. It's like when I've done some more research, about the peace sign. Do you know the peace, what they used in the 60s?
Oh, for the
that's a broken cross upside down. That's Jesus' cross upside down, broken up. Yeah. And it's a disrespect show of sign of him. And when I was researching and looking into this, because it's really funny, because if we didn't have religious people at this point in time, imagine if we didn't have religious people right now. That's what kind of holding this barrier here, really, to be quite honest. Because a lot of the research what I have to go and do, they tend to follow Jesus, to be quite frank. They're fighting a fight what they can see. You know what I mean? Like a lot of ordinary people are walking out there and they're not seeing what they just can't see it, because they don't have that belief moral system embedded in them with their belief.
They need to experience what evil is. And there was one exorcist was talking. He said he's predominantly people coming to him are blokes coming back from foreign wars, totally and utterly demonized. There's one guy come to me and he wanted to sit down and talk to me. And he was a mercenary, and he was in the SAS before he became a mercenary, and he went out to Nigeria in the Biafran War many years ago, and he shot 50 children, child soldiers. And he said, some of them were running away. I've killed 50 children. He said, I'm going to hell. I said, well, not necessarily. You repent, but he just drinks himself stupid because he can't live with himself, because he's, and this is what happened. People, once they realise what they've done, they're going to struggle to cope with it unless they're psychopaths. When they really wake up. So they'll try and block it, or they'll try and follow a religion which placates them, makes them feel happy. And this is where you get the New Age, you get this mishmash idolatry and all that. But one of the things you've got to do is you've got to ask for redemption and be truly sorry for what you've done. And it's not about just going to a priest and saying, I'm really sorry. No, you've got to mean it. You've got to mean it and cleanse yourself of it. But go out there and help other people. And if you look at a lot of my work now, who do I hang around with? Convicted ex-murderers, gangsters, drug dealers, prostitutes. They're just so many, not one ex-copper is working with me or stands with me, not one. And, these other people want to put right.
Do you think that some of these police officers might have seen the way you've been treated as well? Maybe that might... That might... And I don't just from the police force as well when you left. I just mean in general, because you, at the end of the day, these Satanists and all that, they've been attacking and stuff. So do you think they've looked at that and thought, wow.
I'm going there, yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't blame them. But I'm not one of them. And look, at some point, this has to stop. Right, in order for it to stop, someone needs to put a stick in the spokes. Yeah. And when they do that, that bike tips over and it all goes wrong. What both of us done is stood up and said, we ain't having it. And of course, there's huge resistance because people are losing their perversion. right? They're losing their income, their money, right, and everything else, and they have to face themselves. So we get attacked, but what you get is a projection. People that are so screwed up in themselves, they hate themselves, and the only way they feel better is to put pain on others and make them in pain, and that makes them happy. You know, it's like if you're in the wet and someone's in the warm, you went, when they're out there with you, you're happy. You're like, well, you're wet now. And, you know, to a certain degree, there's a bit of that in all of us. We've got it in all of us to be evil, and we have.
But it's how we choose to use that evil, though, isn't it?
I think, of course. I think you have to have that to know that you can do more good. You know, I think that if you didn't have that, you would know, would you, how to be good. As that's because there's things like everyone in their life they haven't probably been happy with, and they've made choices what they're not happy with, and things like that. And you know,
life's about learning. You know, and someone said to me, "Would you kill?" And I went, "Well, I don't know. Maybe I felt like killing." You know, but at what point, if I saw someone trying to kidnap a kid, or if I turned up and there was a ritual and they were raping a kid, well, you know, what would I do? Well, you do what you do, don't you?
Definitely.
I think the moral is that you would do what is the right thing to do. There's you can. I think a good phrase that I used before was, you know, you do what's right. You do what you believe to be right, and not. You don't want to be right. You want to do what's right, sort of thing. You know, so murdering someone isn't right. But if it's to prevent a child going through something like that, then it is the right thing to do. It becomes the moral sort of issue, and you know, that's where a lot of people fall.
Well, we had farm labourers, you know, and people working for the post office, the telecoms companies, you know, in the 1900s. All of a sudden, they were given a gun and sent to the worst war zone we've ever had, the First World War, you know, and they came back and, well, no wonder they were drinking. No wonder this country has got a drinking culture, because we're always sorting out a war. All the time there is a war, and it's a drink. The police was a massive drinking culture, right? A horrendous drinking culture, because that's how you dealt with trauma. You know, in 1 week I picked up 3 dead bodies, and one of them was a child. In 1 week, I went home and I had blood all and bits of brain. There was this jelly on my trousers, and it was a man's brain, and it was a bit of his brain on my trousers going on. I think, what's that? I had one man commit suicide in front of my face. Twice someone's committed suicide in front of my face. There was no counselling for us. I went home as a single parent of children, right? No one was going to sit there and go, what's the matter? You know, what's wrong with you? You know, so what did I do? I drank, you know, and that's how we dealt with it, and that brings about its own problems. But there's a program, and I've been promoting it on my YouTube channel, and it's a Polish documentary called Eyes of the Devil, and it follows about a girl, bringing in what we were saying about abortion, right? There's a new level of abortion now, and it's the fact that they're having the kid, right? This is purely satanic, and they're selling it. Now they're following a girl, she's pregnant, and she's selling it, right? She gets up to, I think, something like 40,000, right? And that kid goes to organ donors in Saudi Arabia, right?
Right.
Isn't this what the Chinese are?
They're saying,
is this what the Chinese are doing at the moment?
It's well, this guy's a Polish guy, and it's in Europe, and it's a trade in it. And this woman is so cold. She went, well, I don't want a kid anyway. And they said, but what if it gets sold to a cult? So 3 routes for the kid. It gets sold into sexual slavery, and they'll keep it going till it's 14, and then the body will be harvested for organs.
Yeah.
It goes to an occult group, but they have to pay more, because the occult group, once it goes to the occult group, they will sacrifice a baby, they can't use the organs. So they pay it more. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
Or it goes for organs, where they get the eyes are worth a fortune, right? The kidneys and the liver, again, but their eyes. So they have to keep them alive when they harvest.
Why is it the eyes? Is because they believe that's the entrance to the soul?
No, because you've got the lens. It can take out and be transplanted. It's all to do with organ transplantation.
Okay.
But this girl was just so cold. It was like, there's no point in having an abortion, because you don't get any money for it. She might have a couple of more months, and then sell the thing. And they said, "What are you going to do with it?" She said, "I'll get some clothes and a car."
Oh, it even goes deeper as well, because what they can do as well is once they take the person to Saudi Arabia, for example, if someone's possessed, right?
Yeah.
If they take that person to Saudi Arabia, they'll rape the girl, they'll get her pregnant. Once they do get her pregnant, they eat, the feces that comes from the baby, after the placenta of the baby. They actually eat that. That gives them power.
Yeah, that's a Western thing as well, though, because you do have, I mean, not normal people, obviously, but there are, like, you see, like, some celebrities that have said about they've eaten the placenta and they do.
Oh, the placenta's meant to be good. I think we're on about, actually, the wrong term. I think it was a fetus. You're on about an abortion.
Yeah.
The
afterbirth. That they actually eat.
Oh, yeah, but that's culturally always been done, the afterbirth.
Yeah.
But I think that's always been done. It's meant to give vitamins back in, but...
but it's also a spiritual thing. It's actually a spiritual thing.
So that's how it's viewed in the voodoo thing. That's why they would do it for that reason in the African culture. They would do it to get the spirit back in, basically.
I mean, I've heard accounts of one girl. They got a boy and she always said that this boy was a listed missing person in Southern Ireland, and she said that Mountbatten was at this ritual. She actually said it, and of course the British government have always protected him, but now the FBI have released a file that he was a paedophile and a danger to children. So is Satanism?
Is there like the what you were saying earlier about Ian Watkins there's a 40-year file or something on his file, which won't be. So that obviously says that there's higher up people involved. Let's face it. Of course, yeah. With things like Lord Mountbatten, Ted Heath, and whatever, there must have been investigations going on, and there must have been like sealed files that are going to be opened 50 years from now. Is there any of them that are going to be coming up for a
Well, let's look at this, right? Right, there was an investigation into Ted Heath. It was called Operation Conifer, right? It was run by Wiltshire Constabulary, right? And there was a chief constable called Mike Veal, and he stood up on TV. And I know when people are speaking from the heart. And this man, with all the fortitude he can muster, said, "I'm 110% certain that Ted Heath is a paedophile and he was involved in Satanism." So our Prime Minister, we know that chief constable came to me, right? I was just a constable. He was 10 ranks above me, and said, "What do I expect?" I said, "They're going to come for you, Mike." And they did. They destroyed him.
They did, didn't they? I remember. As soon as he'd done that video, they destroyed him the next day, didn't they?
They destroyed him. And I said, "Who is it?" He said, "The House of Lords and the intelligence services." So we look at the House of Lords, right? We've got Lord, I think, Carey.
Yeah.
What was the Archbishop of Canterbury? He protected his bishop, Bishop Peter Ball. Bishop Peter Ball was raping, sodomizing young men, young boys, right, within his jurisdiction, all around the south coast of England. They had a huge jurisdiction, right? He could have been stopped, right? There was a flawed police investigations consistently by Sussex police, right? He could have been stopped. George Carey did nothing to stop him. He went on to rape a boy. This boy committed suicide, right? I've written to the House of Lords asking, why is George Carey given a peership? And Prince Charles protected Bishop Ball for 14 years, protected him. You know, these questions are never flipping asked, you know? If my brother, I've not got a brother, but if I had a brother and he got done for shoplifting, I could lose my job. So why have we got MPs like Leon Britton who are consistently named as being involved with it? Why have we've got right honourables like Harriet Harman, Margaret Hodge and Patricia Hewitt, which were promoting a pro-paedophile group Pi.
Yeah.
Right? Why have we got...
And that's still going today, isn't it, John? That's still going today. It's
of course. And the government inquiry, right, they wanted sex to be legal between a man and an 8-year-old boy. And the people on their books, members, there was a head of the Boys Brigade, an army major, blah, 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 all it went, right? and they were being funded by the Metropolitan Police's Special Branch for 3 years consecutive. The London School of Economics allowed Pi to speak at it was the Campaign for Civil Liberties, which is now Liberty, at their Christmas do. Shami Chakrabarti now runs it. It's always on the telly. Patricia Hewitt was given thing as Minister for Children. She was promoting this. This has to stop.
Yeah.
We need to wake up, because at the root of this are people having sex with children, right? It has to flipping well stop. And people need to wake up. They need to stop getting offended by someone calling them this or that and all that.
Yeah.
That needs to go. And those that are promoting that need to be outed, right, for the disinfo agents they are, you know? Yeah. And we need to start acknowledging evil.
Yeah, John, this is another thing I'd just love to get your opinion on, to be quite honest, because it affected me and it stopped me trying to talk about this subject as much on social media. But this QAnon movement, I feel like it's really it's kind of pushed people away from this sort of stuff now, I believe, because it's really
bad. Of course, because we're looking for a saviour. You know, Donald Trump, all these thousands of kids. Well, where's the evidence of it? Thousands of kids in tunnel. I never bought it for a minute. It might have happened. What do I know? Yeah. But again, if you saved 1,000 kids, you would be in the White House till the day you died. You'd be loved. You'd be made king of the world for saving thousands of kids in tunnels. It never happened. He had the chance to exonerate Snowden and the other one, but he didn't. He did Assange, and he exonerated some rapper who'd shot someone. Yeah. Bullshit. We're holding up for a hero. They ain't now. We shouldn't be doing it. And again, QAnon. Well, where's the fruit of your stuff? Where is it? Listen, it says in the Bible, by their deeds shall you know them. Right? Words speak is nothing. It's cheap. It's nothing. Do it. Do it. You know, get on the street and do it. It's like what we're doing. And if ever you could get a chance to do an interview with this Pastor Patrick, I really would, because this guy will tell you straight away what's going on, but you won't get. We got a meeting with an exorcist from the Catholic Church. It'll be in private. He might not want to be interviewed. Pastor Patrick will be interviewed, and he will tell you about the prevalence of demonic possession and the attack on the children, and he will.
Yeah, like I say, I think this subject, as because it didn't it, John? Like say last year at one point, because of what happened with that QAnon movement, it did come to the forefront. It did bring a lot of awareness to it, but at the same time, it took a lot away from it, and now I personally feel like it's starting from scratch again, isn't it? Really, because you've been discredited now. Oh, that never happened, so all the rest must.
But if you look at what was happening with this, James, is the fact that last year, or maybe a bit more than that, we had Jeffrey Epstein was outed for being the paedophile he was. His best mate, Prince Andrew, again, likewise. And then all of a sudden, COVID comes along, and it's all taken a holiday.
Yeah.
And churches have shut. Gymnasiums have shut. Do you know what I mean? Everything's shut. Yeah. Boom. All well-being stuff has all gone down, and we're just looking to the government as being our saviour. They're not our saviours. They're not. And it's just a way of desensitising us, detracting us through what really is right.
You look at what they're saying. When you mentioning COVID there, John, do you remember when the CDC came out and said that they were going to have to look into the homes and start removing the vulnerable from the homes and things like that? Do you think there's some device to separate the parents from the children? They either say like they'll take the father away. I can see in my mind what they would do is they will come into the homes and they will test the father and go, oh no, we've got to take you away. And they've just brought in the legislation where they can actually take you by force, if need be, and put you in a quarantine centre for up to 2 weeks or whatever. Now, while you're out of sight and the father's removed from the home, who knows what's happening with the kids? The kids are then vulnerable. And they have to be isolated.
There was talk about children being able to be removed under care orders to be tested a bit in there. Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they throw it out there and await the reaction.
Yeah, that's why they have all these leaked documents, isn't it? They let a document's been leaked to the Sun. No, it hasn't. You just.
I mean, I've been out every single day. I do not wear a mask. I will not wear a mask. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Right, and it isn't. I gave a speech in front of 54,000 people, and people come up, give me a hug and all that. Again, I'm not saying it to big myself up. I should have been dead ages ago with all this. I'm not denying that there isn't a virus, but we live in the UK. My stepfather, the flu killed him. He died of the flu. His father died of the flu. You know, the flu is a killer. It's always been a killer. Now, it may well have been weaponized. I don't know. You know, and I don't want to go on too much because, again, they'll deplatform you for it. She'll get deplatformed for it. Yeah, we can talk about Satanism. You won't get deplatformed for that because that's no threat to them.
Yeah.
You know? So we just need to get a grip and realise what's happening because, listen, we know what we're doing. Isabella and I are going to go out there and we're going to, you know, educate people of the reality and get people to come forward. So we know where we go. We know what we're doing. We're awake to it. But others, I feel sorry for them because they've got no understanding of what's coming. Because something's coming so bad.
I absolutely do agree. And, you know, it's crazy because I was speaking before the lockdown happened. I'd spoken about it since 2013 to 2018. I'd been posting things on Facebook. I knew when what was his name was going to get Donald Trump, and I spoke about that there was a virus coming. And I believe one of the reasons why this is happening, I believe God wants this to take place. Because this is a time people need to give up all going to work every single day and keeping their minds and their spirits busy, rather than sitting down and reflecting who you are as a person. Where do you want to go? Are you what you want to accomplish in life? And spiritually, are you there yet? Do you need to work? So this is the time of reflection. And I think a lot of people, some people have not got the concept of it. And some people are sort of getting into a depression where it's getting them to a place of depression. But rather using this time to make a footprint in the world and sort of let people be aware of things, you know, what's really going down. Because there are things that are going down that which I think if a lot of people was to understand that, it will send people into a madhouse, if that makes sense.
It does. Make perfect sense. John, you said earlier about Epstein. What's your views on what's happening with Maxwell at the moment? Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I mean, you just don't know. You don't know. You don't know whether it's a pantomime or what. But if I was going to go as an investigator, I would say that this woman is a wealth of information. She needs to be milked dry. She will be offered plea bargains. She will be getting a huge reduction in her sentence. She will get protection. She will get everything afforded to her if she speaks out. But on the other side of it, if she's given information that's going to cause... We've got to look at what brings forth the intervention of the intelligence services. If you're going to upset the economic stability or the political stability or the welfare, meaning like infestations, you know, disease or something like that. So if you start foot and mouth and stuff like that, maybe COVID, I don't know that, then the intelligence services will step in, right? And that's their jurisdiction. So with what we're going on health-wise at the moment, the intelligence services have got jurisdiction now because it's to do with the healthy well-being, financial well-being and political well-being. If you start screwing about with them, the police move aside and this other lot come in, you know, and it's a different rules because they're not governed by the ECHR, the Human Rights Act. They're not governed by any of it.
So is that what we're under right now then? Are we under that?
I would have thought they will have a certain amount of jurisdiction now. I would have thought that people that are anti this and anti that, that the intelligence services will be monitoring, you know, their devices like this and everything else. So I mean, I had a phone call from the Metropolitan Police telling me to not organise a protest, right? Don't do it. So, and they said, we've been monitoring your Facebook for quite a while. They said, you're an honourable man, just let's not fall out. So, of course, I'm not going to fall out with them. I don't want them kicking. I'm not going to win. So what's the point, you know? And I had someone from MI6 contact me and told me to stay away from politics, you know, because I've become an influencer, you know, and everything else. And, of course, I'm not going to. It's stupid because it's going to end in tears. I work for the government. I did covert work for the government. I dealt with human intelligence sources, grasses, informants. Not only did I deal with them for the police, the National Crime Squad and the intelligence services. I'd get put into prisons to recruit informants. That's what I did for a little while because I was a good communicator. Mm-hmm. And I know how the bargaining system works, you know. So when you get these people from the criminal classes going, oh, we don't talk to the police and all that, it's talk nonsense, right? Because I'm telling you what, all informants come from the criminal fraternity. Absolutely all of them, correct. Every one of them. Yeah. An innocent person who goes to work is of no use intelligence-wise to the police.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And every criminal who gets arrested because you've been grasped on. End of. That's it.
And then they walk, and then they could do a crime, and then they walk free. And then people wonder why. Why is it that one person goes to jail and then the other one doesn't?
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Looking at a 20-year stretch, I'll tell you, it don't half make you sort of question who your mates are, doesn't it? Really.
Without doubt. You can only see with the Craig twins. The only people who didn't turn on them was Chris Lambriano and his brother Tony. All the others all traded, you know. Yeah. So there's no loyalty in it. You know, these people are selfish. They live a selfish life, selfish means. You know. So of course they're gonna grasp. But Ghislaine Maxwell will, you know, if we're taking it as what it is without any intervention from the intelligence services, if it's law enforcement only that are dealing with that, she would have grasped everyone up. And she has been segregated. I doubt she's in general population, and she's being met probably every single day. And she is doing a massive witness statement about who's who and what's what.
Yeah. Do you think she's kind of hoping to go to the court and then get her put on the stand, and then she hopes that the intelligence service will be like, that ain't happening, we ain't having her on.
Yeah, well, it won't happen. It won't happen. It will all be hidden away.
Would that be Ghislaine's way of, do you know how you said she'd be singing like a bird? Maybe she hasn't sang like a bird. She was going to push it as far as she can.
No. This is a woman who's deeply selfish. Okay. You know, her lifestyle is selfish. There's no benevolence in this woman. You know, she was procuring children, so she's not proclaimed Jesus Christ and redeemed herself. This is a deeply selfish, narcissistic individual that is only on this planet to gratify her sexual needs or her pocket. So no way would she be doing that. She will be doing what fits her and suits her. And like all these people like that, they're rats. And when that ship is sinking, they're jumping. They're off, mate. They're saving themselves. All of them. You know, so let's not. That's why I can never do these podcasts glamorizing crime. There is no glamour in crime. When there's crime, there's victims, and these victims get hurt. Innocent people get hurt.
Absolutely.
Right. So no way would I ever go there. And so don't ever look at these people as being honourable and decent. They've never done a decent thing in their life. Are they going to change now? No, they ain't.
But you said, John, you said that a lot of the people that you work with now are mainly like ex-criminals and whatever. What has made them be redeemable? What's is it? Jesus? Is it?
Jesus. Giving their life to Christ and they change people.
So it's literally, so when they've given themselves to Christ and whatever, and they've allowed that redemption, that's when they sort of go, right, I'm going to actually work for good now rather than being selfish. Yeah. And you see the change in them for it. So that's what gives them the honour. And they do good.
Yeah. And they do good. Chris Lambriano, right?
He's a Christian now, isn't he?
Individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen him. I've seen the work he does. Terry Ellis. Yeah. Terry Ellis, right? A very dangerous man these days, very organised criminal. He spends his days cooking and preparing food for the homeless.
Well, I've been there as well, and I've actually seen what he does for the community. He gives food to elderly ladies, and he's been doing it all since during the summer, even during the lockdown. So I've seen what he actually does for the community.
Wow. Brian Cockrell, you know, the most feared man in the north of England, one of the most dangerous enforcers ever, totally gone to Jesus. What a lovely man. And when you're with these people, you feel it. You feel the compassion in these people.
Yeah.
But what brought them there? Pain took them there.
Well,
pain.
You say that,
was
John.
in the care system.
There was I remember watching a podcast, and it was a gangster, like an old time gangster. He must have been in his 60s maybe. I can't remember what the guy's name was. But he said that the moment that turned him from being a gangster to being a man of God was very similar to your situation with your son. You know, when you said that you prayed for three days non-stop.
It's Bobby Cummins.
That's the one. Yeah. Cummins. And his daughter died, and he was consumed by hatred for himself, and he thought, I've realised now the pain that I've caused other people by having this suffering myself, and he couldn't stop hating himself for what he'd done until he allowed to be saved by God, and then it was like just flicked on a switch and turned his life around and devotes himself to that now.
Bobby Cummins, and you've got Chris Lambriano, you've got Veronica Richardson, Charlie Richardson's wife. They spend their time raising money for a drug and alcohol rehabilitation centre, which to keep it open because the government refused to fund it, which is full of people that have been sexually abused. This is what these people do now. They're good people now. I went properly to Jesus because my son was dead. He'd been dead for 10 minutes, right? They had him on 100% life support. There was an algorithm in his brain. They managed to get a heart murmur back, and they could only ventilate him for 5 days, 100%, before his lungs were broken, his heart and all that would be damaged through the machines, right?
Fucking hell.
And they said if he does wake up, he's been without oxygen for so long, he's going to be so badly brain damaged, his life expectancy is virtually zero, right? We will give you the obligatory 5 days, then it's coming off. I prayed. And I said to God, God, don't expect me to go out there and save anyone else's children, right? I'm not doing it. If I can't save my own son and you can't give me my son, I ain't helping. And that's it. You shouldn't bargain with God, but that's what I said. And that I went back, and do you know what? My son woke up. He woke up, you know, and that was it. And I didn't need to know no more, you know, and that was it. And that was my journey, and that's why I do what I do. But
and how is your son today? How is your son today?
Isabella will tell you. It's just the moment you stand up and you're counted, you're hit. You know.
Yeah,
how is your son today, John? Is he doing okay?
He's he can walk. He went on to he was meant to get married, but the COVID thing put an end to that. He went on to have a child.
Oh,
you know,
congratulations.
He can walk. He's still badly disabled, but he's got his own home now. And he goes to a well-known hospital and teaches wheelchair skills to disabled children. He helps disabled children. You know, so. But he's accepted it. He's lucky, very, very, very lucky. But I mean, he's still not in a good place, but he's alive. I mean, you know, and he's not incontinent and he's not wheelchair bound. You know,
and he's made a life for himself,
but he can walk through it.
Yeah, good on. Well done.
But you know, people could argue it. Oh well, it was medicine. But I tell you what, the consultant came to me and said, we don't know how this has happened, but every now and then, she was an Australian woman, and she was at Adamsbrook Hospital, right? And people always trying to attack me for everything I say, especially when I talk about God. And she said, every now and then things have to go down as miraculous recoveries, and your boy is one of them. There is no way that boy should have woke up, no way. And they had no answer for it, you know. And that's that. But you know, that's the power of it. But you know, we've all decided, all of us, that we picked up the baton, we're carrying that cross, and it's hard work. and it is our work, you know.
It really is. It
But
really is.
let me ask you this quickly, though, John.
Was going
Sorry.
into looking into like who, like, so for instance, like myself, I haven't really been a religious man. That's just how I am, John. It's just one of them things. But like when I'm going through this right now and I'm seeing what's going on, it's hard not to notice. Do you understand what I mean by that? It's hard not to see the spiritual fight, and it kind of brings you to this point where I'm sitting at. I'm seeing it, but I still can't.
You know what I think it is? Everyone has to go through their journey. But, you know, God gives everyone free will. That's where the difference between God and the devil is. The devil doesn't want you to have your own freedom, your free will. But God gives you that freedom and free will to come to him. And a lot of the time, sometimes we go through certain journeys that brings us to our knees, where, you know, we just have to be like, here we are. Please, God, if you're real, show me a sign that you're real. And sometimes that's the way it goes. But sometimes some people just receive it. They feel something in their heart. You understand? They feel something, and then, you know, they then accept the presence of God. So it's all. But you see where the where a lot of the satanic and all the spiritual aspect comes in. It's telling you that you are your own God. That basically there is no nobody else. That anything you want, it's all right for you to kill someone, it's all right for you to rape a little child and get away with it. But that's not the case, you know. And it's all right for you to spill blood, but no, because God is actually real. Satan is real. Hell is real. Heaven is real. So,
but it's like with Santeria. When you look at how it's comprised, and you read into it, and the rituals and its benevolence and all that, and I've just read a book on it, and all it keeps referring to is it's the same as Christian religion, but it isn't. It just has to. And anyway, religion's the enemy of God. Anyway, Jesus wasn't about religion; he was doing about God's work, not about religion. You know, but they're trying to convince you. But it's okay. It's okay. We do it for this reason. We kill an animal, but they're going to die anyway because you eat them. You know, they're going to die anyway, and this is how it is. And again, like with the Church of Satan, we'll do as you want as long as we don't hurt anyone, you know. And you sit there and think, well, you know, there's merits in that, but because there isn't merits in that, because someone is going to get hurt if you do what you want. And if you're not unregulated, we've all got an element in us that does bad. When I was in the police, I become someone that I now disliked. When I look back, I was very violent, you know, and I was involved in things which I won't go into, but how would I have ever become that? Because my environment put me there, but also my free will allowed it. I succumbed to it. And that's why you've got soldiers doing the most appalling things. Well, how does that happen? They don't teach them that in training, because when you're dealing with death and you're dealing with chaos, madness and violence, this is what you become, because you're surrounded by all that darkness.
You become desensitized, don't you? It becomes
totally.
You're numb to it after a while, and see, to the average person on the street, if you saw a fight break out, for instance, between two guys, you'd be terrified to the average person. But you take that same average person, drop them in the middle of a war zone, and come back in 3 months' time, and they'll think nothing of seeing someone being gutted in the street, and they'll just walk past like nothing's happened. And that's the effect of it.
I investigated road deaths for 2 years, and like I said, in 3 times in a week I went round, because as a detective, the corpse, I owned it. That was my crime scene, and I owned it until the coroner took it away and had to determine whether it's suspicious or not, you know. And you know, someone who's been run over by a tipper lorry, you know, a little kid who's been hit by a bus, and I have to pick that body up, I have to turn that body over, I have to examine it, I have to look at it, I then have to go to the autopsy and watch it cut open, you know, all within a 24-hour period, you know, no protective clothing, nothing, you know. And you do that day in, day out. What's that doing to your mind? And the child abuse. Every time you're taking a testimony, you know, what you're dealing with. Horrific. Kids that have been given HIV through violent anal rape, you know. It's just horrific stuff. And then you're interviewing a paedophile who's lying and lying and lying and lying. You know, and then they turn around and go, well, coppers are all miserable. Well, quelle surprise, you know. But
how do you
someone-
stop yourself from? I've always, the reason I've never gone into the police, because I've always wanted to do good. I'm a try and be a decent person, and I want to try and stop people from being hurt. So, but the one thing that's always stopped me from going into the police is the fact that I couldn't go into a crime scene where a man has just raped a young child or a baby or a woman or whatever. You know, like I said, women and children are off the menu as far as I'm concerned. You know, I couldn't go in there and know full well he's guilty and not kill him there and then. I couldn't do it.
It's very, very simple. When you're with the people, they're liars, right? They're liars and they're manipulators and they're deceptive people.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable. And you see these traits a lot with celebrities as well.
Yeah.
They're sitting there and they're lying and you think, oh, people believe their lies, right? But you go into that paedophile as a detective and you offer them your hand, right? It's called reciprocity. They want a cigarette, you take them for a cigarette, right? They want to eat, you give them a shower. They've not showered, they've been treated like shit by the uniform coppers. And you give them a shower, you give them something to eat, you give them a cigarette, right? Right? You get them to talk. You offer them a reduction in a sentence if they talk, if they give you information. Because that paedophile, he will give you 10 other paedophiles.
Yeah.
You beat them up, you ain't getting nothing. You're getting nish, nada, nothing.
Yeah.
Right? You treat them with dignity and respect, right? But you at the same time will absolutely crucify them, destroy them. You will not get your case thrown out of court through malpractice, right? What's the word? Through oppression. You will not get a solicitor making a complaint. So you will be match fit for the next one and you'll do the same. But at the same time, you will absolutely destroy them. And that's how you do it. And that's the cleverness of it.
Destroy them in what way? What by a
You'll
judicial
put
sentence?
together such a watertight case,
All right, okay.
so evidentially perfect that they can't winkle out of it, you know. But you start beating them up and cussing them, that it gets thrown out. You lost it. And what is that for? That's a pride issue, you know. So you've got to always think the bigger picture.
I know.
They are deceptive. They're liars, and they would always get where there's children.
But did you always have that sort of centered mindset to be able to sort of be able to calm yourself in that sort of instant and go, right, okay, this is the bigger picture. Calm yourself down, John.
Yeah,
did you have that from day one, or did that come over time?
Because I'm not like a macho alpha male, right? There's a lot of tough guys that come out, the military rugby players. They'll go in there, bish bash bosh, and they'll deal with it. They tend to stay uniform coppers. The one genre I couldn't cope with was mouthy teenage boys, right? And these usually fatherless boys who just shout at their mums and there's no discipline. Because I brought up 4 boys on my own, and I know what works with boys, right? Yeah. So having a boy mouth off to me used to boil my blood. I wanted to smack them one, right? And I wanted to go and smack their mum one for allowing them like that and beat their dad up for running off. That's what I wanted to do. But that's what boiled my blood. Mouthy teenage boys. But whereas the other stuff, it was just a battle of wits. And once they started talking, you had them, you got them. You had them over, and it was incredible how many people talk because they were so selfish. And you just played on their selfishness.
Because they're
and
narcissistic,
because they're selfishly. Narcissistic, it's all about them. Yeah. All about them. Their life is about. And when you look at Satanism, it's all about themselves. What I want to do, I will do. I want to do this. I'm doing it. Who's hurt by this? You know. And so where does it stop? You know, where does it stop? And it's but it's just
Don't
a way.
forget they keep hearing the demons talking to them and giving them instructions, so they have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Because if they don't do it, the demon will probably kill them. So they've already made the deal that they can't back off on the deal, the original deal. So they just have to keep going on and on.
Is that what you were saying earlier when you mentioned about Katy Perry and Britney Spears and whatever? Was that what they've basically done? Is that you know there's a thing of Katy Perry saying, "Oh, I sold my soul," or was it Katy Perry or I don't know. I'll get them all.
Yeah, Katy Perry did. Yeah.
Yeah, and is it what was the guy's? Oh, Bob Dylan. He said, I made a deal with the other guy or whatever it was. And I'm just keeping up my end of the bargain. Do you think that there is a lot of that goes... Because you see Lady Gaga. I mean, Lady Gaga's out. I mean, she couldn't be any less satanic as she tried, that bird.
She's
ridiculous.
right with it. I mean, look at Ozzy Osbourne. People go, "Oh no, he's just being him." No, he made a song called Mr. Crowley.
Yeah.
Alistair Crowley wrote a book about not only having sex with a boy but killing a boy, sacrifice of a young boy. And then Ozzy Osbourne's written a song about him, and then they watch his TV programs at home with the Osbournes and find it funny. Do you know what? Get stuffed.
Look at Rolling Stone, Sympathy for the Devil.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that's the song that is well known and everyone loves it.
You know what gets me is there's a song by Bruce Springsteen called "I'm on Fire," right? And the first verse is like, "Hey little girl, is your daddy home? I've been thinking about things I want to do to you." They play it on the radio, and what gets me is he's a Democrat for a start. He goes on holiday with the Obamas and the Clintons, and he's well in with all them lot. But no one thinks anything weird about, "Hey, little girl, is your daddy home? There's things I want to do to you. I'm on fire thinking about you."
Yeah, and Sasha Distel had that song, "Thank Heavens for Little Girls."
Yeah.
I mean, he needed a kicking for doing. Wow. But again, they get promoted. Look at where it gets them, and look at where it gets people like us when we do good. You know.
Yeah, we're the enemy.
Yeah, exactly. It's a twisted, inverted world. It
is, yeah.
You know, but they're demonized. You can see it in their eyes. You know, you can see it hanging off them. You know, I look at some of these politicians. I look at that man, Harvey Procter, and I can see him hanging off him. I can see him hanging off Tony Blair. You can see him. I wouldn't want to be them.
No.
I wouldn't want to be them.
God,
because there's going to come a point in all our lives, as much as people, they try and they live forever. You know, you look at Cher, she's in her 70s, she looks like she's 14, you know, because they don't want to die, because they can't die. They're immortal, right?
Yeah.
But every one of us is going to die. Our children will die, our parents will die, every one of our friends will die, our pets will die. No one's getting off alive. When whatever people want to believe, that's entirely up to them. I don't care what they want to believe. But when I go, my final breath, I want to take it knowing I did everything I could to bring justice for those that couldn't speak or stand up for themselves. And that's what I want to do.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on that.
Yeah. And so all these others, all the dissenters, and I get attacked so badly. No one knows how badly I get attacked. You know, and I've not made money out of it or nothing. I've lost money out of it and all that, despite what I said. You can't take anything with you. And you're accountable to God, right? You can justify all you want to yourself, right? That's idolatry. Then carry on and do it. But ultimately, if God, you're a witness before God, right? Your actions are justifiable. That's why people, they choose not to believe in God, because if they don't believe in God, they haven't got to justify themselves. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to be witnessed in front of anyone else. They can do what they want. They look in the mirror and go, "Well, you did it for the right reasons. Oh, you did it because you weren't happy at the time." But that ain't good enough. And if it makes you sleep at night, well, good. But we're going to die. We're all going to get old, and we're all going to die. Some sooner than others. And that is a time when it comes. Then you'll realise what you're on this earth for. You know.
I want to ask you, I don't know whether you know anything about this guy, but what's your thoughts on that Mark Feely? That guy who keeps being, he's like the internet famous pedo person.
Oh, he keeps coming up on Facebook with multiple different.
Do you know?
Yeah,
and
he's got multiple profiles.
And he keeps coming up on Facebook.
Well,
Have you not seen this guy?
He's an ugly guy. He's bald, boss-eyed. He's all like cross-eyed, all like this, and he looks like he's been probably beaten up or something. But he's.
It don't matter, because I was just wondering, because they've been moving him around because they're trying to protect him, because he's got like internet famous for being a pedo, mate. It's really bizarre, but they keep moving him around, and now there's videos of him getting slapped on the street, and it seems to me it's like they're trying to get somebody to hurt this person so they can start protecting them even more.
Yeah, it's weird, because when you look at the penal system, the prison system, right? It was Pentonville Prison was one of the first places of penal reform, and it was people put virtually every person was single celled, right, for a point of reflection to look back on themselves, right? But when they would go into association, you know, into the public domain for their exercise and everything else, they had to remove the sex offenders. They weren't allowed. So they said that they're not on normal circulatory exercise. Right, that's an acronym, nonce. Right, that's where nonce comes from.
That's what
right.
But
even back then, when that prison was built in the 18 whatever, they knew that paedophiles, they didn't have to segregate murderers, violent people, wife beaters. They didn't. What they had to segregate were the paedophiles, because paedophilia affects so many people. We have no idea. 80% of the prison population on the low category under 25s that come from abused backgrounds, not sexual maybe, but abused, right? 90% of heroin addiction has links to sexual abuse. It's massive. Mental health, so much is linked to sexual abuse, so much, right? They're a danger to society, and anyone who promotes or protects a paedophile must be questioned. They must be looked at with the most suspicious eyes. Anyone who stands up for a paedophile, anyone who promotes a paedophile, anyone who associates with a paedophile, you must look at them very suspiciously. And when we see that on television, when we see people stand up for certain celebrities that have been accused of them, and what do? They denigrate the people that come forward as a victim. And of course, the victims are going to have a criminal history, because that's what happens. You know, on the whole, okay, there's some victims that haven't gone into crime, but there's many that have. And many of them, they end up with addictions, which they fund through crime, alcohol or drugs. And how do you pay for that? Through usually petty crime, acquisitorial crime, dishonest crime such as shoplifting or women's prostitution. But if you shoplift, it's a dishonest crime. So when you go before a court as a witness to speak up, when you find the strength in your life to say, I was sexually abused as a kid, this man did it, and it could have been a politician, straight away they can say, what a liar this man is. This man has got a history of dishonesty. This man lied in the care system when he said that this teacher abused him, lied when he said a priest abused him. He's a serial liar. He's a dishonest man. Do not put any value on it. And again, a barrister knowing damn well that person's innocent, you know, and has got good intentions, and then they have to attack him and destroy him in that way. Well, do you know what? Morally, they got blood on their hands, and if that survivor goes and commits suicide, that's down to them as well, you know. And that's how I see it. That's how I think God will see it. They can hide behind what they want, moral basis, the rule of law, or the rules of the bar. They can do whatever they want, but shame on them. Shame on them if they've gone out of their way to prove that a celebrity paedophile wasn't there when they knew well he was, you know. Shame on them. It don't wash with me. And I see it. We can't name them. Famous actors, famous musicians that are always bleating that they're the victim.
I've seen you mention before, John. I've seen you mention before that when you've never mentioned the names, obviously, because you're not allowed to. There was one particular description that that you gave, and it kind of limits it only to a couple of people. Well, I'm not going to say. I'll say it to you privately. I'm not going to say it now, just in case. But if it is that person that I'm thinking of, that person is like my mum's favourite growing up, kind of thing. And it would be my favourite growing up. I would grow up listening to this person's music. And you go, really? Like, you're like that? I don't think he was a paedophile, but I think he was a piece of shit though. Like, and just would be horrible to women and drive them around. Basically just pick up these birds and beat the living piss out of them and things like that. But he may have been. I can't remember because you was mentioning a few different people. But it's when you think about these people and you just think, oh no, really, not you as well.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's a deception, isn't it? You know, and that's what it is. But look at their lifestyle. You know, that celebrity thing, being adorned and loved by everyone. And what does that do? That just placates the ego and everything else. It's not a proper job. These aren't clean people. They're not doing good. All these millions they've amassed. Well, get rid of it, sell it, help people with it, but they don't. It's all about them. And I don't idolise any of them people. No, there's only one person I idolise, you know, and they nailed him across for doing good. So
that's right. That's right. High five for that. That's right.
John, do you think the Satanist movement is now coming into our school curriculum?
Yeah.
With the sex ed stuff, do you think?
100% with the androgyny that it's bringing in? you know.
Do you think that is an actual attack? Because I'm surprised that these schools, like you get Catholic schools and all, they're not fighting back against the curriculum, are they? What's getting pushed on there? You're not seeing any speak out against it. It just seems more like.
Well, why would a headmaster speak out when he's getting £80,000 to £100,000 a year, right? And again, if you're a priest and you know of another priest, you're going to speak out. Well, look at priests. A lot of them don't have mortgages, right? They're housed by the church. They're fed by the church. Are they going to speak out? Of course they're not. Again, like the military, you're housed by them. You're going to speak out? No, you're not. And same with the police. You know, you're going to ruin everything? No, you're not.
But John, I drive a Mondeo, but it's no different to driving a Maserati. It still gets me to the same place. You know, one costs £100,000 and one costs me £1,000. You know.
Yeah, it's a mechanical horse, isn't it?
The point is, I'd rather spend money on a crappy little car and know that I'm doing right than take a single penny. I couldn't live with myself. Neither of none of you could. That's for sure.
Well, you got to look at it. What have they got you want? Well, there's nothing that this like I want. I don't want that. There's nothing they can offer me. I don't care what I wear. I'm the same as you. I don't care what I drive. It don't bother me. Yeah. You know, I get enjoyment out of doing good. I just like it. I just enjoy it. You know. Well,
it releases endorphins as well, though, doesn't it? Because when you do something good for someone, you get a spiritual sort of like a buzz. You like if you leave the house and help an old lady across the road, you instantly feel good. You instantly feel good. I don't know what it is, but if you see a little old lady drop her purse and you go, I'm having that, and you walk off, you're going to feel like a piece of shit for the rest of the day. But if you give that lady back her purse, you're going to feel so amazing for it. There's got to be something in that. There's got to be.
But it's the same when a victim, you help a victim and you go the extra mile and you do a proper Rolls Royce job and they can have healing. They've won for the first time in their life. They've won. All the time they've been put down, beat down and told to shut up and bullied. And the first time when you prosecute a paedophile and that victim for that first time has got healing, they've won, you know, and that's like brilliant. But of course, child abuse investigations get no funding, they get nothing. So whenever you're doing anything, you know, like what we're doing, there is no incentive in it at all. You know,
not financial, there isn't.
No, so you just got to look where the money is, and you know, and what they promote, and what they do speak out, and what they don't. But again, they're taking us away from God. You know, they're shutting down places of worship. You know, they're doing it, and they've done a good job of it. You know, whatever their agenda is, they've really done a good job. They've really done a number on a lot of us. But
well, it's probably a good place to wrap up.
Hasn't it? Yeah, suicide rate has rocketed.
Really gone up.
Yeah.
This is probably a good sort of place to wrap it up now. So, have you got any final things that you want to say, or any things that you? Because you were saying that Isabella's trying to, you're doing something to raise awareness at the moment. And is there anything that you wanted to promote at the moment, or any websites or anything like that at all? Either of you?
I think because we're all working under the pillar of fire. I am, by the way. So we just want to. I just personally want to put everything out there, the awareness for everyone to know that if you have been in any way sexually abused, or you feel like you have done any sexual rituals, or you've done any rituals, even if you have done anything that you've done wrong, that God is always there, you know? He's the one who created all mankind, and he's always there for you to come to him, no matter whatever you've done, right? As long as you are ready for the change, you know, just confess, speak about it. Don't hold your experiences, because whatever experiences one goes through, by sharing it with the world, you could be changing, even if you're just touching one life. That in itself, you saved one person from committing suicide. So that's what I want to put out there to people, that I want everyone who's been abused, all the women who've been abused, right, whether black, whether white, whatever you are, come out, talk, speak, you know, don't be ashamed, you know, don't feel it's not your fault. It was never your fault, because that's where my blockage has always been for many years. You know, I felt like it was my fault, and nothing was my fault. So I just want to put it out there yes, that's my message for the whole world.
You have to love yourself.
Don't give up. You know, we can't give up. You know, you're beaten when you've given up. So, you know, even if you lose a battle, you know, go away, lick your wounds, and just come back, because we need it at this time. And I will echo what Isabella is saying. Just people come forward, speak out. There is help. There is help.
There is good people out there. There's really good people out there. It's not, you know, it doesn't mean that one pastor did you wrong, that every pastor, you know, is bad. They're really good people out there with good heart that really want to help, like myself, John, and, you know, the Pillar of Fire. We're here to help people. You need counseling, you need someone to speak to, or privately. We're always here.
Yeah,
thank you so much for having us on, chaps.
Thank you.
Honestly, the pleasure's been ours.
We'll do it again as well, and you know what I mean. Like it's for me, I just think it just needs more awareness and more speaking, more conversation,
and be careful of all these things. I mean, we've got a whole table of them. Look, there's loads of them, honestly, and you know, people could be picking these up and they'd have no idea what they're letting into their lives.
Yeah.
Just be very careful of what it is, you know.
Well,
Brilliant.
Well, any further comments, Noobs? Anything else you want to add before we?
If it's not of God, leave it alone.
I just want to thank John and Isabella for joining us, and I just want to thank you for that prayer as well. For doing that as well. I just want to thank you both for that as well.
I cover you both with the blood of Jesus, and may you go in peace, and I put a safety upon your lives and your family's lives in Jesus' name.
Amen to that.
You're welcome.
Well,
it's been an absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Right, goodbye, and I'll speak to you soon.
See you later.
That went.
So I see it. Right. Oh.
But yeah, thank you for joining, guys, and yeah.
I hope you all enjoyed that. I mean, that was a fascinating 3 hours. I mean, to be honest, I can't believe we went 3 hours. So if you stayed the whole 3 hours, then you're a superstar. You really are. Well done.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. And we'll be bringing you more. Don't forget, we're going to be having other guests on. Like I said, this is for us in the group. This is for us, guys. Do you know what I mean? For us to get the information from the people who are saying it. So, yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much. See you soon.